This is quality.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Marvel Rivals Ignite. We have our playoff team set, but now it's time to find out where they go in the brackets. I am Tetra, and I am joined by Ryan Central, and we have so many incredible games coming up for you today.
Yeah, we've sort of been able to finalize our top 8 teams for playoffs, so it's going to be really exciting to see how they sort of play at this point. But there's seeding to sort of take care of, and these teams are not used to losing, and they certainly want to go as far in this tournament as they can.
This does also mean, though, that we've already had our bottom cut eliminated. We've said goodbye to some powerhouses. 0%, OG, Shmongus, Alcancia. All of these teams are gone. These are teams, Yoinkanda, the team that came second in a previous MRC. All of these teams already out, and we're left with the best of the best. And they are now fighting for some incredible matchups. Let's have a look at the bracket for where these games are going to be and what has happened to get us to this point.
Yeah, so if you didn't know, we have the 16 teams in this tournament broken up into 2 different groups of 8. So it's the top 4 finishes that these teams wanted, and as you can see in the upper bracket, we'll be seeing Beba Patipim going up against Zero Tenacity a little bit later on. We also have All Business going for a rematch against Low 9 as well, to see who's going to be sort of the 4th seed coming out of Group A, and who will continue on to tomorrow's games and potentially Sunday's grand finals for each of the groups. So we have got a good eclectic mix of teams here, both new and old. Mostly sort of old names, I'd say, for the most part, Tetchup, apart from like L9.
British up, everybody. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Group B as well, we get to sort of look at. And for Virtus Pro fans, thankful that they end up qualifying, even though you're maybe not used to them in the lower bracket at all at this rate.
It is a rare sight to see Virtus Pro lose a series. We were hyping that up in last week's games, but they were knocked down by Rad Esports, the former Team 1. And we also have in the upper bracket game that'll be coming on as our 3rd match, I believe, we have Insomnia GG, a team that multiple players I've spoken to have said are being slept on.
Oh, for sure. And I mean that Pep series, if there's a game to go back and watch that isn't the Rad Upset versus Virtus Pro, it probably is that Insomnia game. Like, there was a crazy overtime finish, a lot of close maps. Insomnia could have taken it 2-0, but the Peps team, as we saw yesterday when they qualified against Alcancia, have a lot of talent available to them. And mostly it's just adapting to the meta, seeing what teams sort of come up with, mostly from the new advanced stage. But seeing as we have our top 8 teams, one thing that I did want to highlight specifically is where those teams came from. The 16 teams that attended this event all came from different areas, right? The Open qualifiers via the Clash system, top finishes in the Invitational a couple of months ago, and obviously the most recent championship for Season 1. The exciting thing about this Tetra is we have 2 of each that have come from the Invitational, have been invited. Virtus Pro and All Business, 1st and 3rd from that event, taking part here. And then 2 teams from not only the first go-around with the qualifiers,
live Jeff reaction.
It's literally a perfect split between all these teams. The teams you'd expect to do well. The Season 1 MRC teams. The Invitational teams. The teams with the most weight on their shoulders coming in from an invitational situation. And then the Open qualifiers. Teams that have earned their right to be here by fighting for it tooth and nail against a throng of other teams. The perfect split has happened. Now the question is, where do they sit in these playoff brackets? Our first series of the day, though, is going to be one of the most exciting for a lot of people, as it has a little bit of history behind it. We have that lower bracket game of Virtus Pro versus Team Peps.
Yeah, I think the elephant in the room is the Virtus Pro. If you're just you've seen that this drops, want to find out a little bit more about the esports scene now that Ignite's been announced and we're taking part in this $3 million prize pool. Virtus Pro were the dominant team of EMEA. To say that they were the top dog into this event would be an understatement, because not only have they won every major event,
what is up, everybody?
They also didn't drop a series up until now. But we do get to sort of see exactly everybody else that's potentially playing up at this rate. So we do have Virtus Pro going up against Team Peps, which is an exciting one. There's a couple of little bits and pieces about that game that
the big game. I want to see Petipim versus Tenacity.
Bracket games. So whoever loses out of Team Peps Virtus Pro All Business Low 9 will be the 4th seed, and then everything else is just who's going to be in that grand final potentially on Sunday.
Like you said, we have that lower bracket game first. We have rematches from Invitational with Peps versus Virtus Pro, rematches from earlier on in Ignite with All Business versus Low 9, and then we have those upper bracket games. Rad Esports, the team that took down Virtus Pro versus the incredible Rising Insomnia GG, and then what a lot of people are looking forward to, Burr Patapim versus Zero Tenacity.
That's a big game.
A match with some pedigree behind it, and a lot of people are looking at that as going all the way.
Yeah, and I think that like Burr Patapim in a completely different group to Rad and Virtus Pro seem to be like the top dollar team in that sort of area, and Zero Tenacity, Knuten was saying that they felt a little bit underestimated. But sort of focusing on this first series, right? Virtus Pro, when it comes to like looking at the particulars of this one, they really are the team to aim for when it comes to the fights and stuff like that. The Team Peps, the most exciting thing about this roster when it comes to its history, we saw Virtus Pro not dropping a map for the longest time either. The first map that they dropped was back in the Invitational in February, but it was against Team Peps, and it was not a domination map. It was actually signature defensive holds now when they
if you want drops, make sure to head over to my Twitch. It drops the Magik skin.
Copied by a lot of the teams in Ignite and updated with the new Rocket Penny tech to make sure that they can go on the defense. Team Peps are flexible. They have shown that repeatedly. With
the bitrate looks terrible because this is literally their bitrate. I can't change, unfortunately. Beat the phone stopping by.
Human Torch, Psylocke, Winter Soldier, and Emma Frost all being played, and that's not even including those quick swaps to heroes like the Strange to rush a point when needed. They are so flexible that makes them very difficult to draft against.
Virtus Pro, I think the names have done a really good job of establishing themselves in this game, some of which were established in other games prior to this one. But there was a real question, I think, from me and Moxie in yesterday's broadcast, Tetra, where it was a little bit like, okay, we've seen them lose. Surely they don't lose again, right? Right?
They just played Res Comp.
Right. It was a real, like, dominant turnaround for
probably play Res Comp again.
Not only just showing their own addition to the meta with playing a little bit more like Sparker, Adam Warlock, but as you're about to see with some of the clips of Dredro, really moving over to play a little bit more of that Cloak and Dagger, a character that was just an absolute menace against them when they played up and lost against Rad. Now, if it's, you know, can't beat them, you join them, and that's Virtus Pro.
Cloak and Dagger is like a hit-and-miss character in my opinion.
The changes in the meta have really
only good.
Got to wonder if were Virtus Pro rattled going into this. They have now come in. They have still not lost a tournament. They lost a series, as we already mentioned, one of the first ones ever. But they won the Marvel Rivals Invitational versus OG. They won MRC Season 1 versus LG. They won Season 0 before they were even Virtus Pro as Team Cats. And they have 11 out of 11 first place finishes in Marvel Rivals Fight Night. The crowd is heavy for Virtus Pro, but Team Peps, the French roster, we know what happens when the French find a king.
A Fight Night mentioned as well, so yeah, it's been such a good look for Virtus Pro, but I think it has been a case of the initial damage was done. It was a map that was dropped from Virtus Pro against Team Peps, which we're about to sort of see those moments, so you get a real chaotic vibe from everything that was happening. But it wasn't just that in this tournament. Actually, in the grand final, one of the which that they won in the Invitational, it was essentially Virtus Pro dropping even a couple of maps over towards then OG, now kind of Burr Patapim. So we do have like an example of what was happening in that game for Team Peps. And like I mentioned, you're sort of seeing Virtus Pro able to push to this point because Team Peps on their defense
is such a weird comp.
Just holding at the spawn doors. This was back when there was only like a couple of bans that you could get in and save, and very much in the center of the Loki Luna meta, with both teams being able to just copy these big ultimates. But it was more the fact that like Peps were able to get a hold on here. And honestly, Tetra, this third map after this was Yggdrasil's Path. Peps could have won that, but I think it got the better of them. They got a little bit nervous, I suppose, excited that they had.
I probably think VP is gonna like
sort of make history.
Do Res Comp again. There's not. I don't think there's a world where they don't display that.
Make sure, like, okay, we almost had them last time.
They have to ban Adam.
This time.
But Virtus Pro, they've now come off of that loss and they are qualified for playoffs. When you face a loss like this, when you've got this many expectations on you, it can shake you to your core. You can really start to struggle with confidence, with cooperation. There's a really big
But I always root for the underdogs.
Between players in
I hope Peps wins. That'd be a pretty funny upset.
Playoffs. That's going to be calming, a little more relaxing. In Virtus Pro, they've had a week to go away. They came back and immediately won their first series in pretty solid fashion. They've had time to get that mental reset, and that will hopefully stop that crash that might have come out from losing that first series. And now all they have to do is to do what they've done before and beat Team Peps. But Team Peps, they are on the rise, and that is scary.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. One of the things that made things hard for Virtus Pro was the new advanced ban system. So we sort of went over this a little bit yesterday because there were a lot of questions in just the stream chats of, wait, how does this work? So the general gist is for the bans, it only, and the picks as well, it only affects the opponent. So for example, you've got the blue team here, which is Tetcha's team, let's say. Tetcha's banning me from playing Loki. If he saves it instead of the Scarlet Witch, as we see a little bit later on, he can then pick Loki. He has access to that character. I don't. And what we have seen a lot, this would be a really eclectic draft when you look at the characters available, but what we are seeing is almost going to that sort of 5th stage where the Wolverine is. That's the first phase of the pick ban stage if you're looking at the pro teams, where a lot of focus has gone in to ban out Magneto, or try and get him, or ban Emma Frost, or get her. So those two main vanguards are the ones that you're really gunning for. And then maybe where the Black Panther is, you're looking at taking out a Loki or a Luna. Those big support ultimates like we saw in that clip with...
the ban system is so wacky.
Really strong. But it's the rest of the draft that I think did catch out teams like Virtus Pro beforehand, right, Tetcha?
It really has been. Those different ban strategies where you've seen these multiple bans onto strategists, which is
not
really
the biggest fan of it.
Their ban style. Team Peps, though, they have leaned a bit more heavy on banning Wolverine over some of these strategists and then picking up stuff like Ultron, picking up Mag, but sometimes letting it through in the ban phase. They've been a little more creative in terms of the drafts compared to the more consistent, let's ban 3 strategists in a row and let through Mantis or Cloak and Dagger or something like that. But obviously, those were some of the earlier games. The draft and the meta has already evolved so much.
Yeah, and it feels like in a week, right? It seemed that last week people were experimenting with it. From talking to Virtus Pro a little bit as well, like after, like behind the scenes of like what went wrong, and they were like, we were trying so many different things and like experimenting with comps and ideas. What ran against us really caught us by surprise. And also, we just had a really bad day. We made a lot of individual mistakes on that first map of Domination. And Virtus Pro, the first map is going to be Domination because every series starts with this. It has been a weaker map for them in comparison to other ones because it is a little bit more chaotic. It's a lot more about team fights and individual errors with some of the big strategist ults, for example. Team Peps, they have been very good and scrappy in these ones, and if they want to have a win in this series, I do think they have to pick up Domination first.
I would agree with you. You got to get that momentum going. We're going to start with the Magnetos. Mirror banned away. And Virtus Pro, they immediately lock in on that Emma Frost. A little bit of anti-dive, a little bit of extra protection with that Mind's Aegis. And of course, the ultimate lockdowns with that Psionic Seduction. It's going to be mirrored from the side of Team Peps. So far, everything pretty similar between the two.
Yeah, so now, like I sort of mentioned before when we were looking at the draft picks, the first part is usually the sort of cookie cutter approach. The Torch being banned out for Team Peps is an interesting one, making sure the Fire can't grab it up for Virtus Pro and saving the Punisher. I do feel like whilst you're looking at the first part of the draft as being like, okay, where teams are leaning, it's these second like saves, these lock-ins that have come in for Punisher here and what's about to follow for Virtus Pro that I think is going to define a team of what they're looking to do.
Hell's Haven?
Moxie was going on about this a lot yesterday. Really.
How come Hella barely gets played in the tourney? Is Punisher better now? Great question. So when it comes to Punisher, Punisher is just so strong right now. When it comes to Hella, usually Luna is getting banned. Usually Luna's getting banned, and like that was the biggest thing, is like Luna enables Hella because of the snowflake. But great question. I mean, yeah, Punisher is just really solid.
Now, Going over into Hell's Heaven. Not sure on what point it's going to be just yet. But
And you can easily bully out Hela with certain team compositions at high level play.
When you have the likes of Loki and Luna Snow,
there's just so many scenarios.
The strategist players are the ones that suffer the most. But Psype making the Mantis work. This is
you have to enable the Hela. Like you have to give her so many resources. When it's like a super poke heavy comp, you can't divert all of your resources to one character because the team will just crumble. When you do that, Punisher is also just better in general. He shreds tanks. He's just like so strong right now currently.
Especially in these triple strategist drafts. Both teams starting off with the Rockets packed lunch, now featuring Penny to give everyone a little bit of armor.
I don't know, this kind of how it is now. It's kind of weird. I agree. Like here, when I'm looking at VP's team, like I would go Hela here to play into the res comp, but I don't know if Team Peps has a Hela player. That's the biggest thing.
Do you have this team up for Virtus Pro to work around? The Resurrect's been bringing in for Psype over on the
basically
Mantis,
he was going for a TP to like get behind them, but they're just going from the top down, which is fine. Heal them down already.
Just pulling out the shotgun close quarters has enabled that first pick, and Beetle's going to be able to chase up the sort of resurrections.
Storm Punisher is also just really strong as well.
From Adam Warlock is going to keep them in this fight. It looked like they might have had to back out.
The game looks so bad right now. Oh, the turret placement. That is a terrible turret. It's fun though. What up, Green?
Claim the first position, but Virtus Pro are starting to roll in and look for those quick pickups. We're playing on the previous patch. This is pre the buffs to the Star-Lord Blaster Barrage, as that's an aggressive movement by Fridro with the Eternal Bond for the early setup, dropping Larry low, but they're revived at the BRB. But that means that Larry, Leaf, and
BP learned that res comp is I guess Punisher's ult is better too. Yeah, you can. The thing is, like with Punisher, if you damage boost the Punisher, you can kill through a majority of the strategist ultimates. Like that's the idea. Why you pick that over Hela. That's a big thing too. Whereas Hela, you can't necessarily do that.
Where are they going to try and take this next engagement? Team Peps, they do like to try to deathball almost, grouping up and
it's like right now it's like res comp versus like new meta.
Aware of this, Fi not really able to go for these like flanks, just jumping in on top as the Omega Hurricane from Leaf, trying to clear out some of these corridors.
Damage boost the Storm.
Directly point blank onto Psype, but Psype is in full retreat with that soul rejuvenation to get out of danger. Leaf is acting as a sort of pseudo for this Punisher, but they did go up on a little bit of a split and now flank in from behind.
Just ran around the pillar. No fear.
They need to try and get onto that Star-Lord, but with the iframes, with the mobility, they're so hard to lock down, but they will finally get the pickup. I have a Gamodo from above for the attempt at the turnaround, and that will wipe with the Maelstrom of Madness.
That is doing so much damage to Finzi. He can't hold on for much longer as the RP has come in.
Born again. All back.
Able to whack away this, but that's a really nice ultimate. Karmic Revival not needed once at all from Sparker in their last series. Now bringing back enough to keep Virtus Pro fighting on this.
Yeah, I feel like res comp at the Storm Punisher is like really hard to play, but because it's VP, it's definitely doable. Big thing.
Allowing Larry to just sit there a little bit longer, check up past this 50% point, and get hardest available with this final judgment.
His damage boost the Punisher ult, and he should just literally destroy everybody. God. Run! Storm Punisher is just why would you? That was almost really bad.
Oh, the fight back is actually really nice. Team Peps eventually have to give this one up, just trying to eke away as much percentage as they possibly can.
They're doing pretty good though.
Forced out, I think, another portal from Finzi actually. So
I wish that stream wasn't so pixelated.
Kinds of fights. And ultimates wise, you're close to a Karmic Revival again, which is never going to be bad. Always nice to have for a rainy day.
Pretty good TP.
Omega Hurricane and something sounded like Seduction combo that might catch them out.
Good grab. Track. Someone track that man, please. If this guy's on controller? Okay. For sure, no. Played in every game, different from last season. I mean, the biggest thing is the new ban system that's implemented, where you're like banning for the other team. The only reason why you're picking Cloak and Dagger is because of that, the new ban system, and because people are finally understanding that the blinding Terror Cape is very good. But still, I don't think it's amazing comparison to Loki and Invis. I think this situation has to be super specific to play Cloak and Dagger comparison to others.
Has to try and go in for this fight, and on 80% of the Galactic Legend, he probably preferred to not have been. The counter revival for Sparker is available. It's whether you can get the time and use it now.
I don't know. It's very situational. It's mainly because like Cloak and Dagger is used, Ultimate is used to take a whole bunch of space in comparison to.
6 in total, all lapped up on top of each other. It's the first point, and we're already seeing a brawl for the ages. Galactic Legend alongside the Eye of Agamotto that actually came in for Beetle. It stuns out free.
It's very, like I said, it's very dependent on the comp. If you pick Cloak and Dagger,
support, healing and utility to keep everybody going for now.
By using their own body to buy the time they needed for the reinforcements, trying to get behind that Guardian barrier, but needs a little bit of burst. Oh, Mega Hurricane once again trying to track down Xavier.
Nice.
They get 2, they get 3.
Wow.
Team Peps, they are actually able to extend that fight long enough, even though they got wiped.
yeah,
So
but
quickly,
maybe it's
they
because
take control
get
and
her ult
take the
like
single
twice
goal
every fight too.
factory.
Yeah, that is a factor.
That's something that
That is a big
Peps have been
factor.
consistently good at.
I
Even
think
back to the
playing
Invitation,
her
which I know is
with 2
different
other
names and
strategists is
faces on
fine.
it.
I think that's what
Just
you would
love a
do.
fight.
I think
They have enough
playing her
sustain
in a
to keep
duo
the
setup
push
is kind of
going.
bad.
And one thing that we haven't had the chance to mention, Aura Steel has been on that
'Cause if you
right
look,
the
like,
whole time. There's
all
no
these
longer
or
that
strategists are
in-game
banned, right?
alongside Punisher with the ammo overload. So it is just
A
bit
big
of
thing.
comfort, a bit of preference, healing output for the most part. And this triple support, it's doing a lot of the sustain work, the strategist lineup for Virtus Pro. But ultimately, it puts so much pressure onto Five to find the final picks.
Like, if I'm
Actually,
VP,
it's Nevix leaving the
VP,
line
I
first
think
for
I
those
mirror.
two.
I think you have to mirror.
Nevix has been locking people down, so effectively DRP as well.
That's a
Emma
big
Frost,
thing.
one of the
Like,
highest
I think
damage
Storm
vanguards, doing
Punishers
such
is
a
too
good job of
strong
quick blow-ups.
not to play.
Use how this works, but the rocket, like you
They're
mentioned,
going for the
it's
portal
unusual,
cutoff
but
again.
Virtus Pro is so good at fighting quick pickups.
Heal
They
seems
get
to be a big
DRP,
meta.
the
Yeah, definitely
damage
green.
boost from that Cosmic Yard amplifier, plus the damage boost from Storm means they can hopefully, in a team fight, maximize the amount of time that Hardest
He
is
kidnapped
damage
him.
boost, but with that
That's so sad.
massive portal coming out, dive in,
Wait,
blast
what?
rock, DRP finds the double though, with
Wait,
the
how did he kill 2?
rush lock-in down into Crystal Kick,
What?
and it's a huge pickup for Team Peps, but they did lose Aura Stealer, and that's the one who can bring people back, whereas Virtus
Flying
Pro,
gun?
they can just keep cocooning.
For the system? Yeah. For the new system, banning out healers is good. But usually the first pick ban is like you're doing Emma Mag, either ban Mag and save it, or ban Emma and save it, and then you do the strategist after. That's the biggest thing.
Was really high in this tournament, but when he's put onto Emma Frost, it hasn't worked out that well. Certainly the first time when they played up against, I think, Z10 in the early parts of the groups. Now he's
Like, playing solo Strange is kind of bad in comparison to like Mag. Pretty sure they banned it.
CC not leading into a follow through as of yet. Virtus Pro now
Big
with
eye.
results. It's
Big
a
eye.
5-player Eye of Agamotto, but where's the follow-up? You have the Psionic Seduction that's going to stop Ultimate's use, but Hardest getting out that final judgment just before it allows the supports, the strategists to keep on working. The invisible boundary for Larry, but people are going down and Virtus Pro looking to take the point.
Finzi with this Strange and Nevix with this Emma Frost. They were able to drop it
Pretty
this
good.
time. They found the perfect shielding positioning to absorb that. The Eye of Agamotto came in immediate turnaround.
They had Invis ult, but our Invis didn't pop it. She got like lost or something. Unfortunate.
But Virtus Pro positioning was their key for that fight. They stood behind their vanguards exactly when it was needed, only burning the Eternal Bomb for that fight, and now they still have that Galactic Legend. They still have Karmic Revival, and they're about 50% of the way.
That's a very good ult. Didn't manage to get Star-Lord, unfortunately, though.
for someone to pick up wants to get onto that Star-Lord, who is uncontested up here. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Oh, that's free. Oh my god.
But the Omega Hurricane just stacked on top of it. The return trip is a very quick return back to spawn all the way.
So excited for Phoenix. She has like 10 different variants. I hope she has a really high. Yeah, I'm not sure what hero they're doing next. They said it's Phoenix. They've said it's Blade. Who knows at this point? I think either character is going to be cool. Either character seems like it's going to be cool. Like, I like they're adding a character every month. Like, that's cool. Like, it adds a lot of content, but like, I feel like that it's gonna be like miserable to try to balance. Like, something is always gonna be super strong or super weak. It seems like that's gonna go, which is fine, but it's just annoying. Echo's kind of implicitly put its Phoenix. Maybe.
To fall through, but Nevic's actually going down in the end. The hardest he has been a hero for this team previously.
Next season teaser. I mean, yeah, I mean, they're literally bringing a character out every single month after season 3, so dropping hints. Yeah, I mean, it could be a possibility that could be next.
Neutral yet high ground.
Oh, they're doing the TP again.
To give up any space, getting information, looking to try and go for the counter attack against Beetle.
It's a good Emma shield. He got the portal off though somehow. That's impressive. Wait, he died, but the portal went off. That storm is dead. This is strange, dude. Oh. Well. I whipped out the Spider-Man. Damn. Oh.
Trades there from Finzi though, 99% overtime looming down, and we go to the
yeah, I don't know when the next season trailers will be out. Probably in like 20 days or something.
And it's the first map of the day, Tetcher. We've still got plenty of this to go for, and Team Peps trying to do a little bit more damage. They were the first team ever to take a map off of Virtus Pro. They want to be the second team to maybe take a series off of them. But to be the team to first eliminate Virtus Pro from a tournament, granted it's the seeding stage, they'll be in playoffs next week. I think
it's guaranteed to be the release mid-journey, could completely change metas. Yeah, that is a big issue. I don't know how they're gonna like do that. Not really sure how they're gonna deal with that. Like if they're dropping characters mid tournaments, might be a little weird. That is like a valid concern, I think. Like if you're like on the competitive side.
We would see a little bit of an opening from Aura Stealer with that extra bubble from the Jeff to give them the speed boost out, because this time they're not portaling. The cooldown burned earlier.
Wondering what ultimates are expecting to be online. 2 strategist ultimates for Virtus Pro available. Kamek Revival.
I think that's a valid concern.
For Virtus Pro, they still have a chance to bring people back. And
you on damage? Why are you not on damage?
I mean, it's consistently connected onto 3 or 4, but down on the low ground, it is just contesting the point first. They feel that whoever's able to grab it is going to have the bigger advantage. And the final.
There's more of a how fast can you learn a new character and adapt the game? Yeah, you also you only have like essentially you have a month to adapt, right? Before the next one comes. Like, again, it's cool that they're doing it, but it's like, it's a lot to do, right? That's so much, like, it puts, like, I feel like so much stress on, like, teams, at least from, like, the coaching side. Like you have to constantly think of new metas like 24/7 or like new team compositions all the time.
comes Fincy to try and wrap around to look for an angle, fire with the blast of Mirage as Leaf is getting sold down aggressively here. And this time, the point hasn't even been captured yet, but Virtus.pro have been in control of this fight essentially from start to finish.
I'm not a fan of that. I mean,
Now,
I see it two ways, right? I see it from a casual side, then I see it from a competitive side. The casual side, yeah, it's going to keep the game enriching, fun, new characters every month to play and test out. Maybe they add your favorite character or a villain or whatever, but on the competitive side, like, you have to constantly adapt, which is definitely like a case of like who can adapt first. What the Mantis? Mantis.
Moving on to the solo Vanguard composition. Beetle, all the pressure is
We swapped to solo Emma for a Mantis.
Mantis with that Inspire
Oh.
to try and melt through Virtus.pro to set themselves
Oh,
up.
she's
Mega Hurricane
dead.
with damage boost. The Galactic Legend is targeting it. The healing is good. Eternal Bond is keeping everyone from
The better team doesn't always win. Yeah, it's the team who adapts first. What is that, the rocket? It's the power of Res. I don't know why they swapped to solo tech. I don't like that change. Only makes sense.
It also means that if we do see a switch over to the Doctor Strange from Portal play, Fincy is almost ahead of it, or seems to be every single time. Perhaps opting for it, not at this point, as 80% has been hit for Virtus.pro. Camera Revival is the only ultimate they
Hater
have
team
right
doesn't
now.
always win,
It's even
brother.
really close to being available too. Meanwhile, Pep's using a lot in that final fight, not quite having the same amount of fight taken out, but he's going to be brought back with that team up with Adam Warlock, and he's able to actually get the trade over onto Leaf.
Another 2-man, 3-man, 4-man, 5-man Karmic Revival. Sparker is being the lifeblood of this team right now. As
Your team doesn't always win, brother.
Ooh.
He got right clicked through the Mantis ult. That's tragic.
But the strategists are getting dropped. There's no big ultimate to keep them up. Fincy and Nevix have fallen, and Leaf might just try and hold on to this, as it looks like they're going to get the flip.
I mean, Virtus.pro are going to be happy with this for the most part. They've got 2 ultimates available, and they're very
Well, that's
close
very
to
good. They
having
still do
a
99.
Portal play looking to be the go-to.
High ground.
Potentially looking to be
We're on Hella now.
trying to find a more cute position to start this engagement from.
Mantis pick already.
You
have I. Probably look for I. I Star-Lord probably. I see him. Here it comes. Doesn't? Now it comes. I mean, they're all just dead, honestly.
Sparker is taken down, but has that cocoon to bring themselves back. There's the beautiful targeting by Fi, and game number 1, Virtus.pro, after a little bit of a shaky start, are locked in.
That's the thing with res comp. Like, you have to mirror. You have to mirror or play Hella. You have to do that instantly.
Historically, and it makes sense when you the French-speaking team Peps really synergizing and being on wave with each other consistently. It's more the fact that Virtus.pro, okay, the comps that we saw yesterday weren't really tested all that much. Here they were brought out in full swing, and we're starting to see exactly why they like that Adam Warlock. Multiple people being brought back with Karmic Revivals, consistently able to do a good amount of DPS as well. It really is just a Virtus.pro have found their footing here, and Team Peps looking good on that first part of the map, can't really move things across to do the same kind of damage on 2 and 3.
I want to see how many revives. I need to know. Someone in chat, please let me know, because Sparker was insane. They got 11 final hits just by themselves, just doing such a good job. Leaf was a dominant force for Team Peps, though. Very nearly able to clean up and solo push on through, and that is where we do start to see the weakness of someone like the Mantis and like that Cloak and Dagger, where if you're able to time them well, they have long ultimate charges, and they are a little bit squishier, can be crowd controlled. You are going to be in a situation where the Storm, if you can capitalize correctly, can really blow up everyone in the backline, and we saw that repeatedly with Leaf getting over 20 final hits that game.
Things at least Looking good for Virtus Pro on this first map, which, like we sort of mentioned, for everything in Ignite, every first map is going to be domination. It's randomly decided by what I imagine is Ultron just behind the scenes being like, yeah, hell's heaven, let's go.
The Bucky? Yeah, you could do Hella Bucky.
Well,
they definitely swapped too late.
Very good at Convoy, because they do like to play aggressive defensive lines by holding towards the spawn doors. It's something that Virtus Pro are very keenly aware of at this rate. So Team Peps do have a bit of a fight back. And at the very least,
Punisher Storm is good, but you need to go like Hello Bucky or
a minimal, a couple of team fights, as opposed to Virtus Pro being just so ahead of the teams in Europe. There's no point in scrimming them. We might as well scrim the Americans instead. Now that's certainly not the case.
The 2-1 in favor of Virtus Pro. Still quite wild that there was the one in there. A lot of people would have looked at these teams beforehand and would have said, okay, well, Virtus
I mean, they did pretty good.
Finals. Team Peps might have been one of the teams eliminated.
No, they were against.
Peps have proved everyone wrong. They have got this far, and they are already giving Virtus Pro a run for their money. This is just game number 1. They're still playing
against essentially the best team
they like
in the world.
They like these spawn traps. They like to siege in as best as they can. We'll see if that's where they go for. Will we be heading to Midtown, or will there be a different plan in mind for Team Peps? Find out after this short break.
Matches in 3 weeks. I think so. The battle pass ends. I think. I guess it would be next week. Don't know though. You would think that's the case, right? Like, I'm just mathing. Yeah, I mean, like you would think that's the case, but they don't. They haven't said anything. Trying to. These 2 weeks early? Yeah, probably. It's either gonna be Phoenix, or it's going to. I'm fine with. Like I said, the second Blade comes out, like that's literally the character I'm playing only. Forever and always. Like Blade is a character I've wanted since like season 0, because that's like the only like superhero I've actually like read comics on. Or I guess not superhero, but like enhanced person. I'll see you.
So you remember when I said the Team Peps are likely to be taking us to a convoy map, Tetcher, because it's something that they were able to actually beat Virtus Pro on ever for the first time a couple of months ago?
All the streamers tested early.
No, we are not doing that. I was going to do a French accent, but I think that's just too ridiculous. They are actually taking us to the Convergence map of.
I usually get the test early too.
So this is a map that went relatively well with them yesterday. It was a very back and forth battle that we saw. And they narrowly won it out. Mostly down to hardest Punisher yet again, right?
This is a map where the walking distance between the actual point and the initial spawn is long.
Yeah.
So picking something like the Rocket, where they've been getting those quick revives to prevent people from falling behind, is actually huge. The Punisher is insane here, like you mentioned, and Hardest is played so good on it yesterday.
That reference rate?
Position locked down.
Oh.
This is, if
I
they're
don't
not
get
going to go
that.
for like lock-ins on stuff like Midtown, a fantastic choice for Team Peps.
I'm a little slow in brain. Nice.
Everybody's a blip. Everybody's a bad day. The rest of this group stage is going to go as swimmingly as possible, which I think for the teams in the other group they would benefit from, because it basically means, okay, if Virtus Pro managed to reverse sweep this group and end up coming out on top, you don't want
yeah, that's right.
Coming into Group A.
Yes, now I remember. Now I remember.
Opponent. The symbiotic service, really, when it comes to the picks and bans, standard stuff. I think DRP showed a lot of promise.
I remember now. I had like
Frost to begin with. It's somebody as we saw like a bit
it's been so long since I've seen the movies.
It's been exceptional over on Magneto. That it's been even a surprise that people at Alcatia let him play Magneto in the first place and didn't just ban it out straight away like Virtus Pro have here.
Bag ban. We are seeing with the EMEA
bag ban for both sides.
Really locking in on these Magneto bans compared to the other side where we've been on the Americas, where we've been seeing a little bit of Magneto.
Emma save. I mean,
in comparison
just
to
like this is what you do now. The new ban system.
That has swapped around. This time though, both teams will protect the Emma, and we'll of course see that low-key ban out by Virtus Pro.
Literally just mirror.
I think for looking at Peps, really is now sticking to their guns of trying to take fire away from the Human Torch. It's a very good map for Human Torch. We even saw a little bit of that coming out from Leaf, who's going to be comfortable. And actually, instead of the save onto the Punisher, they're going to really protect the fact that they need Cloak and Dagger. They felt that the lack of the damage shred, I suppose, with the extra 40% on people hit by the Terror Cape, which is available every 12 seconds, and the duration of that debuff is 3 seconds, so 25% of the time...
Is Cloak meta? Is this like meta now?
Seems pretty good numbers for me, I'd say, for the most part.
Is this what we should be doing?
Being one of the better sustained strategist ultimates to keep people going, and with no Magneto on either side, you don't have to worry about that Meteor M squishing you like a bug.
I guess the only reason why it works so well is because of this, right? The mag ban?
In terms of stuff
I feel like if Mag wasn't banned, like it wouldn't be as good. Playing Res Comp again.
You have to play Iron
Man that the cape is strong? I mean, yeah.
Meta with Hela not being banned so far down the list with the
Res
Soul
Comp
still being available. It's a potentially risky time. I do love seeing from Virtus Pro though the ban onto the Invisible Woman. You know Leaf can play the Torch, you know Leaf can play the Storm, both flying characters who will really benefit from that Guardian barrier, which can help keep them sustained while in the air. So taking that away is at least targeting onto Leaf.
Means Beetle has like less freedom, I suppose. Nevix is going to be licking his lips a little bit more, that he doesn't have to worry about force physics knocking him away with the eye.
Thirdly, we go Hela.
Not that it made any difference last time, to be honest. He was still connecting onto multiple people consistently.
We pick Hela, yes.
And with Magneto, it used to be a sort of bit of 50-50 between Magneto and Emma Frost.
That's what we
like,
should.
Which one are you going to ban out? Which one are you going to try and get? Because getting them both is pretty much unheard of so far at this level of tournament.
Oh, nah, bro.
Ball play in action again. We saw a couple of people fall for this yesterday, and I do believe that DRP was potentially one of them. So, hoping that he doesn't, you know, take a trip off the side of the map again.
Waiting to see if it's a portal trap. Fi on Spider-Man here. There is that portal. Will they get the counter? Did they place it ever so offset? This is what a lot of teams do, is they'll place the portal just off to the side. They did not. Is there the counter? No counter portal at all, so immediately we see Virtus Pro take the advantage, getting Larry, but a counter from DRP, who seems later guided off the side bench.
I think he got the Carbon Crusher over onto Saipei as well.
Wait, we're not placing our turtle. What the?
Maybe Virtus Pro get wiped at the heat there for the universe, but that's going to take quite some time, and there's only like 4 minutes to be able to protect the point too.
Oh.
DRP trying to go in, Carbon Crush seeing if he can grab
out of there.
those, but he's taken a huge amount of damage, and Finzi putting the final blow on top of it.
Res comp.
Trying to chase down exactly where Leaf is going to be playing on this Human Torch.
You gotta swap or mirror. Like this like has to be changed.
A couple of evolvements and additions.
I have to change
Virtus
it.
Pro just gonna run it everywhere, and you can see why.
The Star-Lord is still good, and they're receiving a buff coming up soon, live for the game. But for these players, it's going to be
Do not swapping.
news going into these playoffs. With a lot of the Flyers like the
Torch
let through here. You look at what can deal with Flyers. You of course have the Punisher.
You're playing Torch without Invis with Star-Lord might be really bad.
But then you look at Star-Lord. They have pretty solid range, but their melee, they have invulnerability frames, which they can easily
good,
blow people up with, trying to eliminate the BRB. Not enough, so they have to run away from the Punisher here.
Well, we've seen this from Treedro before.
Oh, big.
Super aggressive Eternal Bonds, and there's the Eye of Agamotto.
No res. No Adam res.
1 to 3. No force physics available for Virtus Pro as it was banned now. Really starting to show. And now Finzi is actually managing to turn things around. Isn't on the character himself of Doctor Strange.
You gotta swap.
In fact, switching things around to allow Nevix
Peps has to swap.
a more accurate showing of Venom on Clintar.
Good, we're mirroring. Not really mirroring. Need to Adam for the work guy. Guys, need Adam.
This Venom is very fun. Frenzied arrival immediately into the pull, into the feast from the abyss. They are committing, but Fi gets blown up here. Hardest who swapped on
Gets blown?
themselves gets continued.
This guy said he gets blown.
With no Adam Warlock on the side of Team Peps. They are not coming back. Have to go right back to score.
Galactic Legend trying to cut across just as he was brought back with the Soul team up. He's able to get free. He's carving through Team Peps.
Guy needs to swap to Adam. Yeah, he does.
Fresh croissant, honestly. Virtus Pro really hot stepping their way to taking the second objective very quickly.
Yeah, either Hera or go Hella.
They still have that Strange, but they don't have the portal because they use it for the counter to try and create a single.
This is fine too.
Finally, we will see Leaf swapping over off that torch.
This is a very interesting.
They're just going straight for a copy. Give us your comp, Virtus Pro.
I guess they're going for burst.
We're trying to come through Silent Seduction.
That's a
in this
big
tunnel. It's
ult.
going to pull a lot of people from Virtus Pro into a precarious spot. Do you see the Soul Resurgence used from Aura Stealer to just keep people going for the time being? Galactic Legend is going to switch around. Hardest going on to the character himself, but it's Spark.
He's getting ran down by the Venom.
The strategist that's the one that's just finding these final blows to get Virtus Pro still trucking along.
Virtus Pro aren't slowing down. This is the Virtus Pro we expected to see coming into Ignite. They are
That's the big issue with res comp. If they get like tempo, you just like run the other team over. Because they will always have their passive res up. You have to like beat them as quickly as possible.
Just dodging the sleep attempt coming in from Aura Stealer from downtown in the air. I appreciate the ambition, but the extra healing is going to make sure that they don't get any pickups. They have to dive in once Larry's extra Eternal Bond has expired.
There's a lot of damage that he did actually. It forced out the early ultimate of the Eternal Bond. Now Leaf with the
How was my Adam caught by Emma's ult? Won't have res.
This fight is more the tempo that's been set up from Virtus Pro as the camera revival's gone through. Sure, Fi gets taken out, but he's going to be brought back with the Adam Warlock ultimate. And really, it's just who's got these cooldowns available, whose soul is going to return to the battle fastest, and often more than not, it's Virtus Pro that lead in the line on that.
By keeping the pressure onto the backline, going in with the Venom Blaster Barrage in the doorway. Nevix and Spark again at the pickups, but Fi, the damage output is working beautifully, and there's that finish line. Khalid is the best way to describe that. Wonderful play by Virtus Pro.
They had a like mirror way
We've seen
faster.
faster times done on other convergence maps like Halls of Dajalia earlier, but that's still exceptional. Finishing the map full stop for Virtus Pro is hard enough. Team Peps have to manage it and match it. Whether they get even close to the time that's set, it's going to require a lot of these like resets. And I really like Nevix pulling out the Venom, especially when you have the Vanguard's still feeling relatively strong. Yeah, the Thing is certainly a lot worse meta-wise than he was previous, and for people are still adjusting to the new changes that have come in. But for the likes of like Captain America, Venom, even
This is
Penny
bad.
Parker,
Why are we
for all
swapping?
things, they still find value when they're used in the right places. And Virtus Pro, one thing that we can say from their scrim books, if they are losing a lot of scrims, you can put it down to the fact that Virtus Pro are also trying out a lot of different stuff. And the Venom alongside this comp seems to be something that clearly they've noted down and want to use a little bit more.
I like this though. I like this comp.
Captain America for EMEA in particular, whereas other regions will kind of lock in on the Venom, and it seems that Virtus Pro have decided that the other regions might have a point.
I really like this comp here.
The Venom a bit more themselves, and a lot of that is going to be due
I think it's really
to
good.
frenzied arrival.
The Venom and the Star-Lord going together. I think that's very strong.
For Blaster Barrage, combining that with the Star-Lord, you have a pretty reasonable time for setting up some quick bursts.
I don't think it's that bad.
Just very good to isolate some of these targets, because if you're playing this sort of, I was going to say triple support, but that is actually your strategist has been moved over to be something a little bit more standard. Everybody
Whoa!
has to stay relatively grouped up, or you're going to have a Venom diving on top of you and isolate
What is
you
that
from the rest of your
portal?
team. Auto play from Peps, looking to try to take the objective quick enough. And Leaf over on the Storm has had some inspired performances over on that first map of Hell's Heaven. And
Really
Hardest actually
retract
finding
the
first
Mantis,
elimination
right?
So far on his side.
Oh, this guy's dead. What are you?
Hardest on the second engagement gets punished, running into two people. 5 picks up the elimination, and Sipper will be brought back with their own rejuvenating cocoon. And right now, Team Peps, it was an aggressive rollout with Virtus Pro. They were able to back out quickly. Leaf snipes fine though, and that could be the opportunity for Peps to move in if they can get the second pickup.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the one good thing about this comp is just like pure damn. Never mind.
Oh wow, look at everybody just coming
They all
back
just
and
died to
Cleve
his
and
spin.
Fide are just, the combo is just cutting through people. And this was a side that Team Peps took off the Human Torch just to stop Fide being able
Wait,
to
that guy's
farm.
name is
He just
Aura
doesn't matter.
Stealer. I mean, that's
I've got
fire.
so many other characters that I can pick up and play. Another side of it as well, I guess, with the Venom
Aura
is like, Venom seems to be a really good character to synergize with Soulborn.
Or Steelers on the rocket.
He is just impossible to
Fire.
eliminate, right? Like he's sharing out
Fire
that
name.
damage that he's taking. He can obviously give himself that resilience as well if he's down low on HP. It's going to be hard to take him down, and the Feast of the Abyss is available. Soul Resurgence.
He should just literally kill everybody here, yeah? Guys?
It's going to force things back. It's going to force
Yo,
out that second
Punisher.
strategist ultimate from Dreedro. With that
He is
eternal
nuts.
bond.
He's really.
And in comes the Feast of the Abyss. It's going to try and look and hunt for a target, but Team
Oh, what
Peps
are you
all
doing?
surviving, but no progression made on
Oh
the
my
field.
god, he almost lost the 1v1 by the way. Bro. Oh, my rocket. And everybody's back. Yep, that's res comp. Everybody's back.
Eliminations and gets the revive onto Nevix. This is Virtus Pro. They have yet to give up even a third of this.
Dude,
point
res
right
comp
now, and
is
Team Peps are running out of time.
It's a
way too
statement,
good.
and it has been so far this week.
Especially
for
with
Virtus
these
Pro.
bans and saves, like you can
And the
literally just
ultimates
ban all of the
moving.
counters for
At least when
for
you
his
look at the
comp.
sign of seduction for Finzi, but outside of that, not too much. I have Agamotto for Beetle, less to try and block you and get in the way. And Nevix trying to jump into the backline as the Omega Hurricanes come through. Hardest
I mean, they
again,
don't really
Fide
have
first pick.
anything.
It's likely to be just brought back instantly.
I mean, they
The
soul
trade is
bonded.
there to be her back, actually, that's going to be the thing that sort of brings back Hardest too. So it's fight
Really, we
ongoing,
rocket ults?
Time being bought, a minute left on the clock, Tetcher.
Right.
And Peps pretty much need to clear the whole objective.
No, you can't let him die.
Try and capitalize. Aura Steelers, no damage bonus, but they're a player down. Beetle gets taken out, and that comes the guard up and gets wiped
Nice.
off the board. Here comes the damage output from Hardest to try and make something happen. They got 5, but 5's back.
Bro, what am I
They tried
watching
to
right now?
that Emma Frost, but they can't do enough damage to finish them off thanks to the extra healing from Dridro. This is just Virtus Pro vintage here as they hold the control with 30 seconds left. Team Peps, they're going to try and
Good eye.
even though they're down members to try and create a stagger.
Nice.
No, it's still a cocoon onto Cypher. Spark has even got the cocoon and Karmic Revival. Everything Team Peps is doing right now can be undone.
Hit a revival. Spark
Of
has been
course,
brought
man.
back
Born
by
again,
his
bro.
own, classic part of it, but Beetle's just gonna make sure like, sit down son, we need to
The Mantis is just punching him in the back, bro.
Fine now with the Galactic Legend, taking a huge chunk out of the shield and of the body of Beetle. And even
it's just so good.
Do all that much. Virtus Pro looking to hold on out.
Res comp is so good, bro.
Virtus Pro showing the team peps. You might have taken a map before. You are getting absolutely zilch today. Take this sort of losers bracket game clean 2-0.
Team Peps, we will not be saying goodbye to them. Remember, these teams are already qualified for playoffs, but Virtus Pro sending the message. But just because they are down, they are not out, showing that there was no shakes, there was no kind of like getting rattled after that first time.
Res comp is too strong, my friends.
It just happens sometimes, and they are showing that they are back on form after a little bit of a incredible.
And this is why res comp needs to be learned, but not to play.
Yeah, I think one of the things about it too is like with Hardest, we saw right at the start we had some.
This guy had 13 deaths. That's insane. That's fire. As the GOAT.
Every final judgment seemed to result in a 3K or a 4K. How many final judgments did we see here that Virtus Pro survived through? And if it did get a pick, how many of those picks just returned near enough instantly off of the back of the team up or the Comet Revival? Hardest couldn't get anything going this game.
Legitimately, they just could not find any momentum. They'd get a pickup, then they'd just get brought back. They'd get Cypher, their Cocoon, they'd get Sparker, they'd get Cocoon. And on the very odd occasion, they actually finish off Nevix through that symbiotic resilience, through that soul bond from Adam Warlock. Well, guess what? Karmic Revival's off cooldown.
Fire.
Time for them to return. In the meantime, Fi is running through your backline, picking up everyone they need, and just playing incredibly. Fi again has only really played 2 heroes this entire season of Ignite so far, but so far that's all they need.
Res comp.
It works so far. Yeah, Team Pep's not playing for the rest of this
Res
week.
comp.
See them back again for playoffs, so you're not
Star-Lord buffed, by the way.
Yeah. The French squad, and at least they can sort of like, okay, we actually have a really good like VOD to look at exactly what Virtus Pro did here. How do we sort of copy it? How do we try to push on further on, I suppose, in this tournament and evolve things?
That's fire.
And to Virtus Pro's credit, that's something that I admired with what they've been putting out here, that they didn't just take what Rads used against them last week. They sort of took some of the elements like the triple support and a lot more focus over onto the strategist of Cloak and Dagger, but then able to
that's crazy,
the
dog.
likes of Adam Warlock and be able to use a lot of that team up strength that realistically has kept Virtus Pro in a lot of these fights, and it's really hard to get anything going when they're so good at stalling objectives.
Bridro moving over to this Cloak you mentioned is the trick that was used against them that they seem to struggle a bit against. Simple adaptations like that to get that Terror Cape bonus damage in to allow Fi to capitalize, and just with that much extra pressure on
Star-Lord got buffed. Yes, I don't think they're playing the new patch though. They're playing on the old patch.
Anytime anyone's on the way, and then using that quantum magic to maximize damage output.
What was the patch again?
That Adam Warlock actually is,
the buff.
including against the Storm, while Leaf was insane. Like,
just
can't wait to see them in the playoffs. They were being targeted a fair amount by Sparker.
Yeah. I mean, Sparker's been exceptional on a majority of characters that he's ended up playing, but seeing him move over to the Adam Warlock, which we've sort of seen from the early points, that right click can just burst somebody down, pretty much down to 0 HP within a second, that Sparker's able to still put out a crazy amount of damage output, despite the fact that he's not on that duelist role as much and as often. And with the series yesterday, I don't think he had to use Comet Revival once, because I think there was maybe
Star-Lord, the Elmet guns suffer less fall off at mid-range, so 25 meters from 10 to 65. So this tightens his primary range, harder to punish from mid-range, increasing his threat zone.
A couple of times at this rate, Nevix,
that was the buff.
over in these tournaments. I do want to ask about the Venom in that final map. You're a team that have tried to sort of evolve what the meta has currently been. I know that you experiment a lot with various different compositions. Without sort of giving away too much, like, why did you sort of pick up the Venom? Because it seemed to be a really good, like, divey pick, but for people who aren't familiar with the character as much, why was he good in this matchup?
So Venom, he's like a really explosive dive tank compared to like Captain America and Hulk. And he also lives quite well compared to the other dive tanks. So like, in this matchup where you have Adam, Star-Lord, like very explosive characters with Link, etc., you need that extra punch when you go. And you also slow down the enemy team and knock them up, so like it's a really good engage tool. So that's kind of where he fits.
So you guys have been, like you said, running it with this Star-Lord, with this Adam Warlock a fair amount. In fact, so far, I believe Fi has only played Star-Lord and Torch, but a lot of people are still focusing on banning out the Torch. Is that okay with you? I know you guys have more in the tank, like behind the scenes, but this focus in terms of bans, how's that working for you?
Yeah, the Torch ban is interesting because they're really targeting Fi, but he's like very flexible DPS, so it doesn't really bother us too much. But Fi's Torch is very good, so like it shows a lot of respect to us, I guess, when they ban him. Even in this like triple support ban meta, they still went with our DPSs because that's what scares them the most, I guess. But today I feel like our team play like shined through compared to theirs.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, it took a lot of team play on that first domination map. It was like the first couple of points at the very least, like Peps were really giving it to you in a couple of those fights. I know from speaking, I think, to Fi about like the Rad loss, he said that you made a lot of individual mistakes as a team on that first domination map. Like, did that feel, it's chaotic, obviously, but did that feel a lot better today? Like, just being able to tighten up some of the gameplay and like, what elements, I suppose, do you look at? Again, you don't need to reveal too much, but I'm just curious, like, when you're a team that's at the top for so long, you have to almost be a little bit nitpicky to find some of the issues that you have, right?
So I think in the match we lost, we had a little bit, we were not really sure about the meta, like where it was going, where it fitted us. So we were on like Punisher, Groot, a very static comp that doesn't have too much solo playmaking. It's a lot about using our ults correctly and not that much clutch play. So, and I felt like we got a little bit nervous and got carried away, that we had to rush things, and that kind of led to the loss. But today I feel like people were more relaxed, more confident that they can carry themselves, so to speak. So I feel like this vibe suited us way better.
And like you said, you haven't had to rush things now as you are moving on in the bracket. You obviously are already qualified for the playoffs, and now it's just about where you place. Who would you like to play against? Who would you like revenge against Rad? Where would you like to end up in the playoff bracket?
I mean, I want to go all the way. I want to beat Rad again to prove that it was just a fluke that one time, and that happens. Like we won so many games that at some point we're gonna make some mistakes, not read the meta well, and drop one. But I think we'll come back stronger now, and we want revenge.
I mean, yeah, it's been like, I guess with all of the experience that you've had as well, it does feel a little bit like after you lost that series, there was like, it's the end for Virtus Pro, right? Like the golden age is over, right? Like, honestly, has it been a little bit frustrating where it's a little bit like you literally just lost your first series in almost a year of playing Marvel Rivals, right? And everybody's just going haywire. Like, is it something that's just in the back of your mind, or you're just like, we just go next, literally, we can only keep going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it really sucks because before everyone's like, wait, they're unstoppable. But now there's that splinter, you know, or like people is like, oh, we can crack them. They're not that good actually. So we lost that mentality, or like what people thought about us. But now like we need to build that back. Like we need to repair whatever happened to us.
Yeah,
you go away and get prepared. Thank you very much for joining us, Nevix. Congratulations on your win, and we will certainly, as you move on in the bracket, see you later.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Petra, do you think that there's more people, like, it's almost like praying for Virtus Pro's downfall, almost, really? Like, it almost feels that after that loss that they've had to bounce back quite a lot, is kind of how it feels. But it's nice to see the Nevix is just like, no, we just got to prove that we're back on top. And I think with the results since that series loss, it has looked that you can't dispute it, honestly.
When you're at the top, everyone is praying for your downfall. There's going to be a lot of expectations. As I mentioned earlier, heavy is the head that wears the crown. But you know what could be heavy? Your inbox in Marvel Rivals. Because while watching this, if you have linked your Rivals account, we have the drops available for you. Starting yesterday, you can get the Magik Will of Galacta spray.
That was a crazy like trade up.
Echoes of
That's fire.
Limbo emote, and of course that gorgeous Will of Galacta costume.
It's your skin.
A little bit of magic creeping in every now and again in our earlier rounds, and of course there's always more opportunities when we begin heading into these later playoff games and those international games coming up after.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff in the future for sure. I was saying it was 8 hours to watch before you get the skin, so it's 6 hours, so it's even better deal than I've been saying. But if you're still like, you know, getting a couple of ones, we still have plenty of games to go over. More that are going to be exciting like this last one that we saw. So don't go anywhere. More EMEA Ignite action is coming up very soon.
Still have to look more at the matches we have to play tomorrow. I have a general draft, like a pick band. I need to watch a look. I need to look for the weaknesses in play. Here for the streamer nuts. 3, right? Sometime Saturday. I don't remember the exact time. What's his name again? Like I was trying to like Marvel tracker him so I don't have to like keep opening the game. Their matches. AMP Blackwingers. I don't know, like AMP, right? X. X. I didn't find it. Fire song. APM_Blackwing. I can find him. Caps matter. That matter. I didn't find it. Didn't find it. Tink. I really want to see this match. Like, this is a very good match to watch. This is probably also a very good match to watch. This is like a question mark. I don't know how things are gonna play.
I hope you've all brought your briefcases because it is time for All Business versus Low 9. That is our second series of the day here in the lower bracket of Marvel Rivals Ignite for EMEA.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to see All Business sort of truck along here. We've got sort of the old versus the new a little bit. All Business invited to this tournament because of a third place finish in the championship versus L9, which have been around the block, to say the very least. They were basically one of the latter signups, right, to just put a team together for the second open qualifiers for this event. And they are the only team, Low 9, to actually make it that went 0-1 first. They managed to go through that grueling lower bracket to end up in a qualifying position for playoffs. Now it's a case of doing as much damage as possible, frankly, and honestly, if Virtus.pro are on the trajectory that they're on, it's basically who's going to play Virtus.pro first in playoffs that they're trying to avoid here for these two teams.
Let's talk about some heroes that we're definitely going to be seeing in these games, because there are two heroes, thanks to this advanced drafting stage, including that we saw in this previous matchup, that have changed how the meta works. And that is the Cloak and Dagger and the Mantis. While we talk about how Luna Snow has been dominant, how the Loki has been a big protector for the backline, because they are always banned out, we start to look elsewhere. We look at that Cloak.
I mean, I can agree with this. Like, I agree that these are good.
They are solid, but they are a little bit outclassed by,
but again, they're only good if Luna Loki is banned. That's the difference. Like, in your normal ranked matches, it's not going to be like this, right? Like, you wouldn't play these two in normal ranked. If ranked had the new ban system, then it would be like these characters are dominant. But it's something that's like completely different that I think they should have probably. Like, this is tournament setting, right?
There's been a lot of focus, especially from Moxie, who I was casting with yesterday, of just how much you can pocket your duelist characters. It's effectively giving them all the resources. You want to have the mag bulwarks to be able to.
That's the big difference that people like.
The barriers that you would get from
probably don't understand. Like, oh, the pros are playing it, so that means it's good.
It's basically just, oh, we love you, duelist player, win the game.
The pros are playing it because that's all that's available.
But for here, I think it is literally the case for both of these teams with the lineups that we have. For All Business, we're a little bit more familiar.
It's one big thing, I would say.
Into the championship, they were a little bit of an unknown in this game, as they've sort of built up a name for themselves. And you're looking at Tuzi, and for Tuzi especially, he has got a lot of the support, the sustenance, just the resources.
Oh yeah, they did Widow Mantis against
be funneled into Tuzi.
That was
Tuzi
weird.
Basically destroys.
Did Widow Mantis and just like got absolutely farmed.
Watching, but also I do want to put an asterisk onto Zenost as well, because he, as you're sort of seeing in the top left hand side of your screen, actually put priority on picking and saving the Loki. And the funny thing about this series is not only is it a rematch from the first series of games that we saw in this group, but also both these teams put a lot of stock onto getting Loki available in game for them, and it's one of the reasons why they're here so far in this tournament.
Both these teams like their little bit of an aggressive tank. When we look at some of the other players, Toot is an insane Venom player. Even though their favorite character is actually Magneto, it's just that their other Vanguard player in the form of Welsh Mania ends up playing the Emma fairly often, which does take it away from them. But if you look on the other side, Saint Amoto is going to be the Vanguard, who is also an absolute Venom merchant, as well as a Captain America merchant.
Probably target ban the Cap.
Attack is how we see Low 9 play a lot of the time, with Psylocke, Torch, Ultron even from time to time. They dropped a actual firestorm in-game with a solo Vanguard composition where their usual Doctor Strange player of Wolver played Storm. This team is so flexible and so hard to draft against.
I mean, certainly that Vanguard frontline Saitomoto, who usually wants to be on the Captain America, much like Welshmania, can make a lot of stuff happen with it, but Wolver actually make it a lot work with the group. And you saw a little bit in the screen.
If you want drops, make sure to head to my Twitch.
Now, yet again, Gonski
Magic drops.
on the low-key. This third map against Schmungus was a real, like, battle, I suppose. They did drop, like, some early pressure up against Schmungus that had a really good showing on the domination map, but since then, it feels that they kind of composed themselves nicely, had some really good team fights and some of these solid defenses over on those other two game modes. But I do think it was the fact that they got Gonski on that low key that really helped them out with a lot of sustenance with the stealing of strategist ultimates to keep things going, to keep that sustain up, and also to just be really annoying for any characters to dive on like Necros tried to on the side of Schmungus.
These are also some of the teams that were the
Schmungus,
first to start protecting Cloak and Dagger early, as opposed to leaving it to the last, where it sort of traditionally found its spot to give that extra damage output. You mentioned against Schmungus, they've been doing very well with the Loki, but that has just leapt up in terms of actual times banned out. The question is, if both these teams do play it and like to run it, maybe an unofficial gentleman's agreement where they just play the game of bad chicken to see if anyone lets that God of Mischief through.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious to see, because now with this advanced draft stage that we've only had in these tournaments since last week, teams are naturally still learning to deal with it, whether it's in scrims, whether it's even like they might amongst each other. That's what
here's the thing
might do in other games, right? Of just kind of doing mock drafts to see exactly what directions you can take things in. But All Business first banning out the Captain America is something that they were doing before, but I do like the way that they adjust around it, because they're still able to remove one of the major vanguards, the Magneto or the Emma Frost. So this is something that All Business have done in the past so far, but it also does make sense when you're going up against Saitomoto. They did it in the series that they played last, back when these two teams were 0-0.
Here's the thing.
Wolver.
Aura. Aura pick. Oh! Wait.
OGC. Surely something's gone wrong there.
Aura.
Has Wolver, because he's in the lead, has he like DC'd? Is this something that gets done again?
I don't.
OGC, they're like, okay, it's not just us. It's not just us.
Yeah.
I don't know if Wolver's just here, because there have been a couple of teams that have like maybe crashed on the way in. So this might be It's an odd predicament. There's no way that he missed it because he's like, it's his birthday of all things. He's just like, everybody, there's like 5 people in his background being like, happy birthday to you. And he's like, please, not now. No, please, I'm trying to draft. No, they are back. Okay, so OGC again sat thinking, okay, we didn't mess up this badly to miss the first pick and the first ban. What on earth
Aura,
happened?
bro.
Well, this is their time to try and make that recovery as they have returned. This has allowed All Business to grab the #1 priority hero in EMEA right now. Magneto is on the board, but Low9, they return in time for the Psylocke to get moved. If they can't really deal with a front line or a back line because it's been prioritized now, they choose a different target. With limited options, you pick one, and they have decided that Tuzi is going to be the person to get banned out. If you look at their picks, they have played Psylocke, Torch, and Punisher, and they have just removed 2 of those 3. And All Business, they let a ban go as well.
What's going on? Is there some mind games that are happening here? You said a gentleman's agreement. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll maybe
happening.
Okay, so one player did crash during the draft. That's like confirmation. It's gonna sort of go as is. So I wonder if that is a little bit of like almost sportsmanship from All Business of like, okay, we'll miss a ban too, because these are important games, but both teams have qualified to playoffs. So regardless of who we get in the interviews later on, that's question number 1. Because if All Business have messed up as well, that's just funny. But if they're actually like giving this up and they're like, no, we want to like, you know, it's fine, then credit to them. I guess we're gonna have to see though. That's
Adam save.
That's a first.
Or look, Adam save. Loki save.
We assume
Eddie?
best intent until told otherwise. We're going to assume that they are all
Pretty
business
good.
in name, but all manners.
It's unlucky. Maybe he wasn't here? I don't know.
For low 9, giving themselves a little backline protection, and they just banned every single character that Tuzi has shown. So
yeah, oh my god.
Like I said, if you can't try and zone out the strategists, if you don't have enough of actual bad slots left to try and ban out a Vanguard, or to at least try and gain some Vanguard control, you pick one person and you say, this is a threat, let's do what we can with what we have. It's just managing resources. Yes, it's unfortunate they didn't get that bad pick, but they are capitalizing and making the most of what they have.
All right, all of the people that are co-streaming a watch party, and all you beautiful people you can also get drops from as well, talking to you specifically, you now have to, with that draft, explain why they've gone that direction, as if it was a legitimate thing. That's your challenge.
The challenge.
Yeah, other than like Tuzi, don't give LeBron the ball. Make sure that he doesn't get like his main characters, but I'm sure that Tuzi will be fine to play on whatever in this case. But yeah, for both sides, you don't really have. We were talking so much about like the meta evolving. I think this has hit its like apex. I don't think we get any crazier than this, but it is domination. Anything could happen in this rate. Both these teams qualifying already want to see how far they can push it, or at the very least get a few more reps. Luna Snow is going to be available for closer, and Tuzi over on the Star-Lord.
First Star-Lord we have seen them play so far, but without an Adam Warlock or a Mantis, leading with that Luna Snow to just try and keep them topped up with that Snowball. Low 9 though, they've still got a lot of the tools that they love to play here. Gonski's on that Loki, we talked about it, it's snuck on through, same for Snos. We have Wolver playing the Emma, they're insane on it, Saitamoto on Venom. These are all heroes, they like Jerky on Psylocke, an insane
Aura.
earlier.
They're on Hella though, I like that.
To punish this high ground positioning, lovely lockdown onto Saitamoto, who does get that symbolic resilience off, and is able to retreat back to their team, but with Star-Lord.
Run Venom though. Venom in this.
Yeah, Saitamoto trying to copy a little bit of what Nevix was able to do before with the dive, but when you're up against the Loki, having the Loki and the Luna Snow available for all business seems to be like, how long has it been since we've seen that? And then also the Magneta and the Emma Frost, like these are just comps that you don't
like I said, the quality is not on my end. If the stream looks so pixelated, it's on the Marvel Rivals. Like they're, I don't know how to explain it.
On their favorite character here, according to their own notes, as in comes the Kraken Impact, also something familiar to the previous Invitationals and MRCs. There's Loki clones, here comes Winter Soldier, as Slowpoke able to capitalize and push back the members of Low 9, but Low 9 are still able to be holding relatively okay so far, as All Business have only just grabbed the point. They're up to 17%.
It was All Business that I think actually lost the first map in this series on domination before against Low 9. I'll have to check my notes, but obviously on the other game modes able to bring things back. Jareki has been somebody that Low 9 can rely on when it's a bit of a pinch. He's trying to push back Tuzi away from this upper high ground, but you also have to look a little bit at Crisis. No Punisher available obviously, so it has to be on the Hela. Goddess of Death.
Yeah, we need Hella. Punisher banned for both, so Hella is a priority.
Actually coming in from Low 9 might be the main thing to come through. Meteor available for 2-2. Not able to get an elimination, but it's keeping
good picks though on the side of All Business.
It ticks up in favor of All Business.
Business taking control. You mentioned it.
Good stagger and a Wolver. On the
Ooh! Have yet to score a map in any series they have lost, whereas Low 9
what the?
to lose a series or even win a series without at least dropping and taking one map. They are such a consistent team, always taking everyone to the limit. But right now, it's a rough position to be in, but they're making the most of it, pushing it on in, trying to chase them back, keep that Venom.
I mean, they TP'd back to stall for as long as they can. Oh, L9 TP'd. Why did L9 TP? And I guess. Okay.
Kitchen sink, 4 ultimates thrown in for Low 9, and they still haven't quite got the point. Now they've managed to clear it, but All Business getting to 90%.
I'm not sure if they needed TP there.
They still want to build up.
The TP's okay.
That combination of the Loki.
That was a questionable TP. They're already up, even though there's like a 65 or whatever.
Fairly soon.
I don't know. I mean, better safe than sorry. At least they capture it. If he TP'd then they failed to cap, that would have been very, very bad. Hold this high ground. You guys gotta drop from high ground for you just have to this a lot faster. You can't be getting picked up top. If anything, you drop, rotate to the top left high ground. They did, but yeah, happened. And now we don't have TP. Yeah. Jerky was able to sneak away, trying to get the duel without getting picked up and sent into that final hit mode from that Kraken Impact to give a reset, and will be able to draw this out. But does eventually get taken down by Tuzi. It's just I'm not a fan of early TPing there, because literally that happened.
It felt like they just did enough progression and enough damage early on to make that work. And honestly, it is just a bit of a nostalgia trip, I feel like, which, considering the game has not even been out a year, feels crazy to say. People are going to be catching the ball and be like, wait, no, this can't be right. Like, we're seeing the Lunar Snow and the Loki both available. Basically, the main characters that are all banned out in the advanced stage are available in play here for both sides. That's the crazy thing.
You look at this draft, if you didn't see Emma, you absolutely would be like, wait a second, this looks familiar. What's going on?
This is season 1. What is this?
It is a season 1 comp. That's so funny.
Hey, Blade has woken. Oh, it's the wrong map for Blade, but we do still have the lovely Black Panther having a nap. While they don't make an appearance in the game, they do make an appearance in our hearts always. As we're seeing the rollout on the second point here.
Let me see that Venom rollout, bro.
Bring it back with that Venom pressure that they've been attempting to apply on.
You're already at the middle of the point. What's up?
Oh, look at our business though. Not only were they able to cap the first point, but they have 3 major ultimates good to go for this first engagement.
Green,
when it comes to
are you here?
Looking at what Pinklo and Gonski have available, not too far away, at least over halfway for both of these strategists.
Green, if you're here, when we start on this specific map, I want to start when we TP. I want to TP right off the start and go to the middle high ground. I think that's the best protocol you can do.
Doing so much work on the Punisher recently, now
or portal up here, either or is good.
It's going to be dropped by Gonski with that God of Mischief immediately backed by Closar as they're attempting to push on back low. Neither the one's playing aggressively, but that's going to allow the Meteor M to take.
I think it's just way too good.
Gets closer on the backline, forcing Nos to also
Tough yapping. Ult economy. We copied, we popped a Luna. Have these ults though, we could, I think savings, giving is fine. For ult economy, it's Emma Bucky combo, maybe a Hello. Be looking Emma Hella or Emma Bucky combo. For L9, we have Hella Emma. We have Psylocke, so we get whenever. We have Luna, so to protect us from the combos. Strategist. That's really it. That's a big pick, actually. That's one ult gone. That guy's just farming them, never mind. This is like 1v1ing all of the duelists as Magneto, I respect that.
They are zoning out low 9 right now.
They're so good at playing at like that effective range where that splash damage can just be annoying. Saturday Seduction trying to punish just how far these players from all business are pushed up, but it's going to be used on the other side. Fable Will's just coming out beforehand. You can see
so we did see the Psylocke Emma combo. We did get one out of that, but now we have the Hella combo coming out, and I think we don't have a
up until all business, and yet again it's that Vanguard lineup that finds the burst damage, finds the pick. That duo is deadly, it's irritating, it's annoying.
That's a nice follow-up. We get the res onto our Loki so he can copy, but he definitely doesn't need a copy.
Frustrating for all business, but it's the same as the last point texture. Low 9 looking to pick up things now, but there's so much progression on the side of all business, they're not too upset about it.
On L9 we have copy, we almost have Venom. We could look for a copy on Luna, then damage boost the Venom ult, that's a possibility.
would hold, but they are the one
That's
who is
bad.
out alone.
So on all
away from their
business,
team here.
we have options, right? So we have almost double strategists. We have Bucky. We have Mag. Bucky can just probably just go. I would do. Good aim spot though.
All business are pushing up, making the most of that early defensive ability being burned.
Yeah, they went for the damage boost, pretty sure. He got cancelled too.
Early, but I guess it means that if you can sustain this fight, you can catch them afterwards. The God of Mischief's out, so there's plenty more dancing to be done. Bit of a celebration, and the Dance of the Butterflies is going to be the nightcap to put this one to bed. Maybe the encore song for All Business as they're looking to pull things back into their favor.
I mean, All Business just outdrafted the enemy. Literally, Wolver forgot to ban or save or whatever at the very beginning, which is unfortunate.
They can catch Saint Tomoto, who's trying to disengage and reset as quick as possible. Now it's whether L9 could go for the contest. Wolver swapping over to the Doctor Strange, so the portal play is going to be the action.
Walk through, guys. Walk through.
Are going to make it a bit more precarious to jump in onto the point, but they activate overtime.
We're playing very slow there to make sure that Saint Tomoto can return as they swap over to the Ember Frost, Goddess of Death from both sides, but the Strange is in position.
Got one though.
Giving everything they can to try and buy some time for their team, and currently Low9 Crisis finding at least a couple early pickups, trying to go for the duel onto 2Z, but they are having
really good.
Extreme numbers advantage. Low9 take yet another fight, but they burned everything in order to do that, but so did All Business.
All Business having some time to work up towards it. That's why Crisis is playing such a high line. Can just catch a couple of nice shots, and All Business aren't necessarily paying attention. Somebody could get reset very quickly. Goddess of Death not going to be something that's going to farm up particularly fast, but whether some extra healing can come in, can get Konski up to having a God of Mischief. The siblings connecting nicely. And Jarecki, he's been very good at finding these picks. Dance of the Butterfly was very effective. Doesn't have it available just yet, but Slowpo is the one that finds that first pick in this fight.
Here comes Turkey into the backline. They can take out Loki early, forces the regeneration domain. That removes a lot of sustain. Kraken Impact was burned, found no reset. Crisis, the first to go down, quickly swaps to the Star-Lord for the quick re-engage. But Jerky sniped by the media.
Block.
But that extra
I mean, he didn't block that.
Keep them up. Slowpo will fall here. They're capitalizing. Welsh Mania pushing on in, and Low9. That overtime is ticking down while they have control.
A lot of damage.
No,
that's a lot of damage. Good freeze. 80%. Gonna have to pop when we get probably. This guy DC, by the way. What?
Well, Crisis frozen for a second with Jarecki. Now this is where they start to come alive, and it might be enough to get Low9 over the point. The objective is in their favor, but overtime is being held down by All Business that are doing their best to just keep going, to just keep bodies on the line. There's 2 left now, and they're being very irritating and annoying. And it might be enough for Crisis to find the clearance, and he does.
Very long stall, that was good.
Domination games go the full distance, and a third mapper required here yet again. It was Low9 that picked up this map the first time that these two teams met. They really need, I think, honestly, really be needing to pick up this one if they want to get the win.
Low9 with the recovery there. Crisis, the swap onto Star-Lord to reinforce quickly. Wolver with the slow jump on. It's if you touch the point within a couple seconds of the timer ending is how you activate the overtime. You don't actually have to be standing on it the second that timer hits 0. So Wolver dived in, took a lot of damage, and then dived out for the quick map heal from their own spawn to allow their team to make the way in once Saint Tomoto respawns and turn that round. While Toot has 11 final hits of their own, most of which have been with just regular attacks as opposed to Meteor M's, but they have found a couple. This is where Low9 love to fight. They love these quick backline blow-ups and the ability to roll out fast. A lot of that we did see a rework onto Jet, obviously, but Jerky could have been doing that back in the day as they used to be one of the big backline Jet players.
Copy.
Really, the main narrative of this map is 2Z was hit hard with the bans.
Plus Bucky, I guess we're looking at combo one.
But he doesn't have the Psylocke, and he doesn't have the torch. Mischief is going to be used, but the ultimate not necessarily dedicated all just yet. Jarecki, though, with that little bit of resource added on top of him, it means that this fight is going to lean in that direction. The Eye of Agamotto catching up to 2, but the Maelstrom catching up the breakpoint, making sure that the support ultimate, the Fate of Both Worlds, isn't able
you should be looking for that. Like, you can't kill anymore range through defensive ults, but if you have the Luna damage boost and you pop your Maelstrom and Mantis, you beat people through it. Doesn't even matter. Like OG.
And we've yet to see an ultimate where they haven't got at least 1 KO, and at that time they found 2 and then followed it up with another 2 later. Soul Siphon coming on out from right now Low9, who hold the defensive position, and this time.
So again, we're still looking at Emma, Bucky, Emma, Hella,
Popo. As the Kraken's impact in hand, and this is a good amount of damage.
Emma, Hella.
Forcing out that regeneration.
Really options you have.
The stairs, everybody's been pulled in.
The Hella now.
The Psionic Seduction doing no Lord's
Not too
work.
good.
The Meteor M finding nothing this time, however, for 2-2. Psionic Seduction.
Hella ults because they don't have anybody really to break it.
Just beforehand. More pot shots and
they're all
anything,
just
forcing
like
everybody into this backline, and you just saw Welshmania dive in from distance, clearing people out, and a lot of pressure and point has been
Psylocke ults for some reason.
The Dance of the Butterflies finding one before Slowpoke sends him back with the
That
rest
was
of
a
the
little
team and all
question,
business, making
my
a
opinion.
point blue here for the first time.
They didn't even have to use the Kraken impact, the God of Mischief, or the Fate of Both Worlds.
Going for an elite TP though.
Rollout again from Low9 using the portal early here, as we already have Eye of Agamotto.
They flip it though.
They do not want to give all business a second to recover. Kraken impact coming in, does not find the first reset as they try to look for anyone, but they're getting zoned out quickly into the Goddess of Death to try and burn through, but they are picked off. Beautiful focus. Eye of Agamotto, and again Wolver finds the pickup onto Tuzi as they push on in with the extra healing, but with their ultimate expiring, Crisis going down. Low9 are starting to run out of sustain. They're forced to back up a little as Stos is turning this round. 2-2 is dropped low, and that Psionic Seduction is zoning Low9.
Wolver has been finding all of the connections, maybe not all of the players been stunned by Eye of Agamotto, but it's the Maelstroms, it's this burst damage that's coming through from Low9 to just really get by two of the strongest strategist ultimates to keep people going. All Business just can't seem to really find that connection, and I'm not too surprised realistically. How long has it been that you've been able to run this in scrims to get that practice in? A couple of changes coming over. Welshmania moving over to that Captain America. Did have the Emma Frost available, but wants to go for something that has a little bit more dive, a little bit more proactivity, and really push things over the line as Low9 take the lead on progression.
Also try and keep some pressure onto the backline. There's no Winter Soldier from Low9 to really try and lock down this Captain America with Bionic Hook or a Soldier's Fist, meaning that those backliners, that Luna, a little bit vulnerable. Fate of Both Worlds going to be forced down as Jerky was taken out immediately. Welshmania dropped low, but the siege on the Loki healing is keeping them topped up as they are taking a huge advantage here. Pink Logan, Godsky will Fate of Both Worlds, even though they're down 2 members, to try and delay this, to try and get some extra time, but they are taken out.
I mean, fundamentally, you're maybe looking at that a little bit more if you're Low9, because yet again, you had both the strategist ultimates available. You used Fate of Both Worlds, the copy for Gonski, first in that fight, but you still lose 2 people through the duration of it because the burst damage is still there and it's still very prevalent. So Pink Clone, it's nice that they still have the Fate of Both Worlds themselves over on the Luna, but now it's all going to be thrown in. Some good stuff built up for All Business at this point. 99% on it for Closer, who has the Loner ultimate good to go. It feels like it's a game of chicken, Tetra. Who's going to use it first?
Look out for that Eye of Agamotto. This is how we've been seeing. What a wraparound from Tuzi. That might have just completely changed this game. On 98% versus 91. All Business in control. Fate of Both Worlds going to be dropped. Kraken Impact will not find the reset. Jerky looking for the turnaround, for the save with this Dance of the Butterfly, but it's being sustained. And they interrupted the Eye of Agamotto with the crystal, with the carbon crush. And this is exactly what All Business needed as overtime is ticking down. Wolver is the one on the point. They can't portal because they're here and they're getting zoned out, picked up, and it's quick running in. Reinforcements to try and buy every second, but All Business have control and they will take game number 1.
Getting revenge onto L9 that took this map against them last time in that earlier matchup. And a grueling fight, you've got to say, for Tuzi, not the same level of highlight reel this map that we're so used to seeing, But those final couple of moments, those final eliminations that he was able to pick up with the wraparound, like you mentioned, they're the ones that really highlight how good of a player this guy is. Below 9, you have to bounce back a little bit, knowing how strong All Business are at the Convergence and Convoy game modes. It's been an interesting draft, but we got ourselves an interesting matchup here too.
We did see a little bit of redemption from Tuzi, literally having their entire pool banned out. They were still able to get over 10 final hits, showing just how powerful this Hela can still be. While it's played a little bit less, just due to how it fits into the meta right now and how much protection it does need, they were still able to play it incredibly well. Crisis also showing just how strong they can be after their Punisher was banned out by the side of All Business, taking advantage of that little bad lead that they had in the early stages.
Yeah, it's certainly one to put an asterisk on, just with all of the characters being available, with so much going into like what characters are the highest priority, which ones can we give up. All Business, just having enough about them. It's a team that haven't necessarily played all that long together. They have experience from previous games and been on teams in previous games together, but I've only recently started playing in the bigger tournaments. Probably, I think, Season 0 Championship more than anything. But it's a damn sight longer than Low 9, who have only put together this roster for the second set of open qualifiers. Yet it was still a grueling matchup. It was just the synergy and, honestly, the target focus. Being able to get eliminations through those big support strategist ultimates, the 250 HP, like healing per second ones, it shows just how much All Business are focusing on the right targets.
Let's look at some statistics here, though, because while this doesn't mean a lot, it does mean that Low 9 know how to recover from going down a map first. When they played against All Business, they won the first map and played exceptionally well to do so, taking several rounds off of All Business. Since then, they've had a rough journey through this lower bracket versus Blood Karyudo, where Blood Karyudo took map number 1, and then Low 9 took games number 2 and 3. In their match against Shmungus, Shmungus took map number 1, and then Low 9 took maps number 2 and 3. Low 9 have shown that they are untiltable, and they're not going to let this bother them. The question is, will they be able to take on All Business, who did take that first time these two teams matched up?
I think the majority of the series for these two teams have been full free mappers, so they're expecting the marathon, and I wouldn't expect anything less. So let's see exactly where L9 want to take us for this second map after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Yourself useful.
Not bad. Good comeback.
Welcome back, everybody, and we are one game in to All Business versus Low 9. All Business, they took this series the first time it happened in those upper bracket quarterfinals, but Low 9, they have yet to play a series where they haven't won at least one map, and have obviously won every game since that match, because they have been able to fight their way through this lower bracket to get to this point. Can they keep the spree going? If that's the case, Low 9 should win this.
Yeah, I mean, we even saw the likes of Central Park being picked up by them, but that was a map that All Business actually had an incredibly strong attacking side on. 3.5 minutes to complete the whole map, which was the only time I think we've seen that map in place so far in Ignite. It's fair to say, Tetcher, I can't predict what the picks and bans are going to be for this one, especially after that last game. Who knows what's about to happen?
I really do love what Low 9 did. Again, they obviously had that unfortunate disconnect at the start, but they capitalized on it, and we did see a focus onto Tuzi, who did insanely well on that Hela, but you've got a question. Would they have done better on the Psylocke, on the Torch, on the Punisher? These characters that we've already seen them play, because they have been dominant, and we've been talking with Moxie previously in the cast we've done. It's kind of looking at that Psylocke, and you gotta ban it. Was this the plan all along? To just look at Tuzi and say, no, you don't get any of the toys, you don't get any of the figgy pudding.
Yeah, and I think they even sort of said in the interview yesterday of just like, yeah, Zenosta's like every team bans Psylocke against us. But the beauty of that is that you can sort of switch over Tuzi to another character very easily, and you get an extra sort of ban in that phase.
I think you swap a little bit faster though.
A comfort on, and so far
a lot of these teams are going in with like one company.
Specifically, but L9 have the map choice here. They have two of the other game modes to choose from. We can't go to a domination, for example, and they are going to be taking us back to Midtown. So not quite Central Park, but the same part of the map pool. Do they go for a ban first? Okay,
Dracula's Castle. I wonder how they play this.
Yeah, Crisis is the one in control here because Wolver hasn't looked at the character, which worried me.
All right, so we're going to see the very early, once again, All Business targeting Saint Tomoto. They have an almost 100% win rate in Ignite with this Captain America, so taking it away. They've learned their lesson from last time. So far, Magneto's going to be mirror banned for both sides, and right now, one-sided Loki for Low 9. They could take this away from All Business.
I think, yeah, Low 9 here, gonna opt for the Psylocke first. But that second ban, you would assume would come in to try to catch the Loki, because this is something that has been a consistent second save for All Business. They've made sure that they've tried
to
Loki
ban
as and when they can, but no.
Loki, right?
Low 9 is sticking to their guns here. They're still trying to take out Tuzi's map pool, hero pool even.
This was the plan. We see a lot of focus onto strategists to try and take out these big healing outputs, but that has led to the rise of Mantis and onto Cloak and Dagger with these damage buffs, vulnerabilities, extra protection. But in this case,
then they save Loki. Like
they have identified the problem.
I don't like this how their draft is going. The draft is not good.
Who was a huge impact in that previous matchup.
Like a bad draft.
Maybe a save over on
really, you like ban the Loki?
Or the Punisher do want to have a little bit more firepower themselves. So All Business, more of a standard draft that we've been seeing.
Like, is the duelist that big of a problem?
Still on the field for both sides.
I mean, I guess if they're like target banning that hard, it definitely is a problem. But I don't see a world wiring.
So those two main vanguards not going to be available.
Vice versa, then say.
At all on this map.
You might know something I don't. I don't know.
And Wolver, they were playing what? You know, they can't have Captain America, but they can play the likes of Venom. Hulk has been hovered over for Saint Tomoto. Wolver was on the group beforehand. All Business have Wolverine available at least. But awkward. Tuzi especially thinking, why always me?
Tuzi though, here is a risk that
Hello?
have taken.
Hulk.
They have left
or team up.
The Lunar Snow, which opens up
not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of this comp, I'll be honest.
We have been seeing a little bit of a
even though Luna is open and they get the damage boost for Namor, overall I don't think Namor is good right now. His position is a little weird.
Not seen
like,
since like season 0.
just not good right now.
In season 1.
His cooldowns
So
are
being
outweigh
able to
his like
pick
cons
up
outweighs
and
his
say
pros
I'm
now.
ready is gonna be a bit
In
more
like
of a
season 2,
difficult
he's like
feat.
super
As
dominant.
such,
Season
looks like Tuzi's
25,
gonna
like
stick with something a little bit more
not good
comfortable
anymore.
and is
A
looking
squirrel
at
playing a
that
piano in
Hela
this map?
once again.
And before people type in Twitch or just any like streaming chat as well, just like, well, actually this got nerfed as well in the most recent patch. These games are on the old patch up until playoffs, I believe. So the stun is still as long as it used to be beforehand. I guess whole business want to make the most of it before it gets changed.
So opening up, we see that more coming in from Slowpo here. They're making the most of the fact that their damage dealers did get very targeted, so they needed something a little bit more sustained, and to try and punish Saint Tomoto or Jerky. Jerky has taken to the sky with the Human Torch.
Style.
No eliminations, I think, coming in from
Venom.
either side yet, but Moonknight pushing past this first area of the map that can be often cheesed and held down for just a little bit more time.
It's a very weird comp.
Now all business have to really start engaging this. These group walls are going to put this Emma Frost in a bit of an awkward pickle. The Welshmania able to escape for the time being, and even actually gets the revenge onto Wolver, who's been taken out first.
Jerky's putting in the damage out, but we
They have to
see
spar.
so many bads onto the Human Torch, including by low dive.
This comp is very odd to me. I don't know why.
Then the Punisher landing a couple of the finishing blows. This is a hard composition to defend against due to how much damage output it delivers, but they have the Loki to protect against the backline.
Yeah, this comp weird to me. I don't know why. I guess because you have this and this, that this like you delete that comp theory. Like you should be deleting them. And that's why it's like Luna gets banned.
I guess one of the things as well of like Low9 not banning out Luna on the other side is that it makes it very easy for a Loki to copy it. You almost
A hook can work. Yeah, it can.
But because there were a number of eliminations when
a hook can work, but this is I don't know. I'm playing Namor, which I'm not a fan of, because this is like you're playing the season 2 patch, and Namor is like terrible. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, you're playing for the Luna Namor combo, but I think there's like better duels out there to be playing.
It's just trying to funnel out a little bit more. Strangled Prison not connecting onto all that much other than Closer, which again used to fade to both worlds just at the end of it, taken out.
A very good position.
Just taking these shots in, allowing 2-2 to just pummel down people.
Why not just Punisher? It might be banned.
Damage might be good enough to keep these resets going, as Wolfer is now on the other side, finding these pigs. Texture, it's come and go for both these squads.
It's back and forth, come and go. In comes the Venom once again. Saint Tomoto going aggressive onto these backlines. There's only a few meters left to go. Wolverine has arrived because that Groot is in play to try and look for a turnaround. Will we see Wolver swap it up? As right now, all business were able to drive back Low9. Wolver, they're dropping the exact same strat that they did when they had to push out previously. They are going with the Storm and the Human Torch and the Punisher to just overwhelming.
I don't see the bans, but it might be banned. I don't know.
He has been so good at cleaning up the shop, but he hasn't really had to run into too many Lunar ultimates on the other side, so it's a little bit of a
it might be banned.
Damage boost, really.
100%.
Now you've got the copy going into the Zenost as well. It just means that this fight ends up slogging on just a little bit more. Tuzi through all of the stuff. The hubbub on the point finds the pick over on that Hela. Now Dreki, Supernova from behind the ambulance van. Is it going to be an ambulance for them, or at least not for me? Low9 fighting on the Omega Hurricane with that combination that we saw last time as well. The team up with the Human Torch, making this way too much damage for all business to keep on top of. But they're dealing with the heat. They're staying inside the kitchen.
Gonna assume it's banned. Probably. I think that's fair. I wish. I don't know. I wish the observers would press tab more. Ooh. Wait.
It's been a saving grace for so many teams that they get forced physics and taken out with the wind blade.
Wolver's run back
Bro.
as the Storm, so it is just Saint Amoto solo Vanguard at the moment. He's got stunned and he's very close to an Eye of Agamotto.
Longest like stall ever.
Gets the response back.
Oh my god, he's still
And
they're
the
still
point
stalling.
hasn't
Though.
quite got to the end, although it's looking pretty much a pixel away. That might be the difference from separating these two.
Wait, they hadn't
teams.
TP'd yet?
We got the portal now that
Bro.
was used and sat on the whole time. It's Tuesday that's on it. He's been taken out on so many characters. He's decided to switch to a different role, but it's not enough. Low 9.
Who am I
Crisis,
watching?
He's able to get the combo in, clean up house, and finally, Tetcher, they hit the checkpoint. Deary me.
The portal last-ditch defense with freedom charge, normally giving you that bonus health.
Bro, there's so much stall in this game now that I like really think about it. Like stall for literally 12 years.
The players have been just on and off rolls all over
Peak
the place,
slot fight.
able to get
Brewing.
that Eye of Agamotto. The angry
He
man
swapped to
from
Iron Man,
Brooklyn,
Bucky,
locked
Cap,
down,
and
unable
that's
to
it.
hold this line. And look at Tuzi, they have swapped off the Hela. It is time for Iron Man to try and
I like
eat
this.
away
This is
at
fine,
the
but
single
like
Vanguard to
during the
punish
they're
them.
playing Iron Man
He
into his
alone.
Star-Lord, which is kind of
Yeah,
bad.
it's odd because you don't have that team up as well either with Hulk. It's just Tuesdays just ran in on it. Maybe the sort of burst of the ultimate is going to be enough to clean up house, and with so many bodies stuck together, just a right click might be enough here. Wolver has been making the Storm work, to be fair. He finds another pick onto Welshmania, and triple ultimates now thrown in.
Poor guy.
Side to just get
We
past
got
his
nuked.
main choke. You do have to silence
Yeah, we just
seduction
like
from
just like
2-2,
pop
but it
every
doesn't
single.
all that much. It's mostly that god of mischief from Nos that's keeping things going and actually allowing all business to get control.
I'm still a
of
firm
the
believer
payload once
that
again.
Iron Man is so good
Will
in
use the Omega Hurricane
Storm.
to escape there, really getting zoned out. That is a big cooldown.
Like it depends
to
how
burn,
good the Storm
but
player
It's
is.
better to stay up and in the fight when needed. Jerky has
Like
moved
realistically
onto the
speaking,
side.
the
They're
Storm
sticking
should like
with the triple
outrange him.
duelist strategy
Never worry
here
about
by
that,
just
but
overwhelming damage. But Tuzi has just been piling on pressure. Welshmania on the cap has been running in behind. When there's this many squishies, you like to play cap to keep the pressure on them and keep them distracted.
I mean, Welshmania has been very good on this, especially when you get into high-octane fights where you have to be a little bit more creative.
Dude, that's like
and
me
no
on
business
cap. I don't know what
wants
I'm
to be
doing.
A little bit more coordinated. Price is now over
Just
on
appeared
Hela
again.
himself, trying to just perch
On
up
your
on
left,
the
on
high
your left.
ground. Not going to be seeing Goddess of Death all too soon, but that Fate of both
That's
worlds,
Psylocke now?
I don't know
Nice
what
one, Trot.
pushed it out in the first place.
Bro.
You got the Iron Man pulse come through, not connecting onto much as both these Lokis copying up onto the Luna ultimate. The Eye
That's
of
the combo
Agamotto
we're
only
looking
catching
for.
onto one, but the follow-up is still there again from Satamoto. Low 9 put on the back foot, now starting the counter-attack.
Yo, Green, when you
Over time,
play
it doesn't
at
seem to be
our
a concept
Strange,
for them to deal with.
and
They're gonna
we're
keep things
Luna
going
ulting,
and all business,
go for an
looking
eye.
for a final contest here again, potentially.
Because whoever's playing Luna could damage boost, should be able to press your E and just like delete people.
Try and get themselves a reinforcement all business. They did not have a
You're just, like,
Strange. They are just going to have to walk all the way around the outside. But every second matters. Here comes Welshmania to try and
Big
run
quarter
into
block,
that
bro.
wall. Gonna be done
Bro,
at the
this
point
one
to
walked
try and
around.
Focus down onto that Groot that has been brought in.
Ooh.
From Wolver, struggling prison. Beta both
Massive.
to try and buy time, but it's not enough. And they're still going. Low 9 refused
For
to quietly into
sure.
that Dark Knight.
Not as often
That
as
at
a
the
groove
end of the
fight we
last
saw in
tourney,
first checkpoint,
yeah.
but a decisive
Like-
one for Low 9. Another 90 seconds granted on
It's
the
like people,
board. And this is usually
I'm not saying
where
like you,
things tend
like
to
it's just an
stop,
example. Like
shy of finishing out
there's a
the
lot of
map.
combos game
For all
that people
business,
don't
couple of
necessarily
other
think
adjustments,
about in the
Slowpoke
moment,
moving
right?
over towards the
Like
Winter
that's just an
Soldier.
example. Like you could go for
And
range rolls,
Welshmania
then you could
third
damage boost.
Vanguard that is picked up now. The
You
group
get the
trying
one
to go
shot
for a
through
fight, see if
all,
it can
like
match up
what
to
it used to
Wolver's
be.
been able to do.
They're all like
Making their way onto the point, Jerky up to the high ground. Lovely soul cipher. Has to use the shuriken sweep to dash out of danger. Will be healed up by the Guardian barrier. It is interesting that we have seen that swap here of Satamoto on the Doctor Strange.
No damage boost is gone, no one is gonna die during it.
Well.
I mean, in theory, yeah, like,
building up to that strategic prison, setting up some very nice.
but those are one of the things like you need to call like damage for. But Luna can't just like no.
Into the backline to try and take them out. Gets the double. The strategists are down. That's all the sustainable business, and that card is gonna keep moving. Low 9 from overtime.
One thing I want to know though is if you can damage boost Psylocke ult.
You gotta keep their composure
Like,
going because
I don't
any
know if you
cracks start
can,
to
if
form,
it's-
Drekki's
or
going
not
to
Psylocke,
turn
Emma
it
ult.
into a gaping
Dang.
chasm.
If you can Luna damage boost hella ult. I don't know if you can or not. Like, I need to test the theory. My theory is if you Luna damage boost directly under where she teleported from, like the Luna damage boost like convert to her up top. But I'm not like 100%. I don't know if there's like some sweet spot you have to be at to be able to damage boost her.
Gonski tried to use that regeneration domain to buy enough time for the reset.
Yeah, I actually need to go test, see if it's actually like a thing.
143 meters and 6 centimeters is an incredible push by Low9 through already point A and point B.
Oh no, I don't want to like test it in a turning. I want to like test it out. This is something like I'm curious about.
Just got taken almost all the way to
because if you could, that's a 40% damage increase, you know, or whatever.
Of damage that
which is pretty crazy.
I think they have to put on the performance of their tournament lives. Of course, they are qualified for the playoffs, but it's about the principle.
We see that, like, look at the top left. It's not even like the stats I want to see. It's just as a reminder. Sorry, top right of what the bands have come in over onto 2Z. Like really focusing on taking out.
I know, like
the big hitting elements. And 2Z is able to
the
hold
same
his
target
own,
as Hello.
like,
Yeah,
his
we
Hello's
should. Yeah, I
not
mean,
too
like
bad,
that's
it's
what
just not the
doing.
same
Like
level of
Rusky needs to start doing that. If he doesn't, it's not too good.
Human torch from him. It really is a case of like 2Z's
been playing the game for how long now, and you can't call targets. Issue.
And Slowpo has been that in pieces. But it is just a case of the Loki's been available on both sides means that these battles go on for way too long. Too many dance
no more 2-0s.
Luna and her copies. It's Low9 though.
Walking out Punisher this time.
A really good start. Now they just need to defend and make sure that all business can't match.
Taking out those group walls, making sure that if anyone makes their way
Root Emma, good combo. Root Emma Bucky. Hello, pretty good.
Sticking on this group for this round, meaning Saint Momo has been moved over to that Doctor Strange. And Slowpoke just sieging in, forcing them.
That's pretty good. I mean,
high ground.
he's already at 75% already on a Winter Soldier ult. That's insane progress, by the way. 84. That's actually really good. He's on tempo. Yep.
His HP is going up and down, and it's not taking slow
Lucky
to make the
Moon.
most of it. He was the one that put a pin in their defense.
5 seconds to do something. 4, 3.
And these resets connect him, but Saint-Amoto connects just a little bit harder, straight in the face.
Right there, I'm calming. Where's my healing? That's what I'm doing. Right there, I'm blaming my healers.
Now he's able to at least play the Punisher. He's got a lot of
like
support now.
Right there, I'm blaming my healers for that. Right there. Like honestly, like Downing, like I'm yelling at Downing right there in that scenario. There's no chance. Like I'm actively yelling at him. Why didn't you heal me?
Causing distractions, causing issues. 2 minutes and 40 to go.
Funny.
As all business
Just kidding.
build up those
That is so
assets
funny though.
again. They have almost everything except for Kraken Impact, but it's going to take a little bit of push.
You hit the whole team twice with the Z.
Take it slow at least for now until those triggers are pulled. Like stack corrected as not going to be already dropping that God of Mischief.
Combo.
Strangle Prison for Welshmania. Whether you can actually get Low9 to
we have pretty good ults here though. Heals. Where's the heals?
Just keep things put onto close sides, whether it forces out the fate of both worlds and forces these two strategist ultimates to be hit together. Because we already have the Loki using the God of Mischief. Goddess of Death is going to match on top as we see a little bit of that Asgard Wrath come through. And the fate of both worlds nicely matching in as one song ends, the other is mixed in perfectly on the side of all business to keep things going. Not stalled out on the
didn't necessarily need that.
Stopping on this
Fine though.
4 minutes on the clock to
go. Oh my god.
Fast reactions from Znos there, as a lot of that fight would have come down to if Low9 could have waited out that final.
Didn't need Bucky, I don't think, but I think it was fine. If he hit that, that'd be pretty sick.
Reacting fast, spotting Jerky, and was able to take them out to prevent that turnaround.
And that's why Bucky's my favorite duelist, and he's totally not broken.
Have taken a very good spot at the top of the stairs. They're trying to focus their damage onto Wolver and will take them down. All business, the momentum is heavily in their favor.
Yeah, Wolver's going to have a fair few bruises on him because all business have been punching the ever-living daylights out of him. And now with Welshmania sort of mirroring on the group, he's not too far away from having a Strangling Prison yet again, and it's really...
They're just running them down at this point.
And really stop things for Low9 slowing down. There's still so much time on the board for All Business, more so than Low9 had when we saw them switch sides, that there's got to be a little bit of panic coming in from the defenders. The final judgment is going to try and push things back, and the point is just on the cusp of going through. There's not going to be a contest, Tetcher. They get things going, and we're on to point 3 already.
Tuzi has woken up. They have suddenly decided that Hela is so broken.
They still hasn't ulted yet.
Gonna pick up KO after KO. They were able to spot Jerky with a Soul Cypher to get the pickup. They were able to spot
Psylocke's good, but it's like such a weird position playing into that, like this setup for Psylocke. Like really hard, I feel.
As they are capitalizing and are on a very aggressive flank here.
He's allowed to be aggressive. He has the Idle Aura that's just going to keep them topped up. And now, just with the environment changing around, it's whether he can spot a gap. He's looking specifically for Pinclone or Gonski. Force out these strategist ultimates a little bit earlier on. Tuzi trying to go for the fight, maybe pull back Jerky to try to peel, and it's looking like Jerky's going to be able to win the fight and engagement. Both going to pull out for the time being. The Psionic Seduction going to be the go button, and 4 people stunned out from All Business from Saint Tomoto's Eye of Agamotto. That was perfect.
The Doctor Strange players, both of them, on Low9 are insane. They get the full team wipe. While they couldn't win the 1v1, Jerky capitalized and didn't even have to ult. They move back to try and set up a containment at the Fisk building, as there's only just under 30 meters to go for All Business to take this map and the series. And Low9, they have to now hold for 3 whole minutes.
Now it's building up. The pressure, the ultimates, the moments now, as we do see the copy, that first initial one used to bring us the first of many lunar ultimates that we'll see. Fate of multiple worlds coming through, and Jerky biding the time, waiting for the dance of the butterfly, seeing if he can catch a little bit of a window, especially with that Strangling Prison. That combination saved things for All Business right at the end. It's found an opening, but it's not found a clear-cut fight. But things are still progressing, actually. Just under 2.5 minutes on the clock, and just under 13 meters for All Business to
I need to go back to practicing Psylocke, because I feel like Psylocke is still an S tier character. Like, I still think she's insanely good. Like, the buffs given or the nerfs are tactful enough.
Close, but we are seeing Low9 refusing to give a single inch back to the Fisk building.
It's still like insta-burst enemies.
Every inch matters, and they are committing so much. The Strangling Prison came out, crack an impact, but Crisis was kept sustained, was able to drop the counter pickup using that final judgment onto Slowpo, preventing them from getting.
I guess you're playing for this.
There's the copy that comes in from Xenos.
Realistically,
Ultimate gonna come out shortly afterwards. It's the fate of both worlds, and actually just catch Jerky as he's trying to get through. Stabbed in the back by Tuzi, that wants to really have to shine in this one. Had his moments of seduction. It's gonna push people back. It's gonna keep things churning forward for All Business. They still have 90 seconds on the clock. There's still at least a couple of fights that they can go for.
And as I say that, they do it.
The Strangling Prison used from Wolf, but it's not really mattered too much.
Wait, what?
Than Toot's wrath. Crisis even comes through with a final judgment, but he's taken out almost instantly. Low9 can't hold on for much longer. All Business.
What the hell?
Progress into the tournament, and it really shows that Tuzi can have 3 of his heroes banned out. You can't take out the 4th.
Very nicely done. That attempt. Very valiant from Wolver to try and hold that with a Strangling Prison, set up walls and just stand there on that point. But we saw it, the Loki, the reason it's banned out, regeneration domain, and suddenly all of that effort was put to nothing. Wolver was focused down, and All Business were able to lock in, get that cart to Avengers Tower, and Herbie will have allowed them to move on and get that higher seed when we head into those playoffs, potentially avoiding some of these upper bracket teams from at least the first round.
Go TP.
Look at the healing that Xenos has been able to do. It required a lot, I think. And
Mine was banned.
Really
yeah, I see that now.
Playoffs from both of these squads. They might be on opposite sides of the brackets depending on how things go. but you can't
Well,
say
Pun was
that
banned
this
and they
low 9
still
team
won. That's
doesn't
like
compete or
bad, by the
compare
way.
with the rest of the squads available. All business, definitely more of a slog. But still, you're going to take the 2-0 up against a team like Low9. It's very good at least taking a map in these series and making things a little bit more painful. And certainly on a warm day here in Europe, making things a little bit more sweaty.
Yes, the first map, the first series that Low9 have not at least won a map. After pushing so far, almost getting the triple cap in this game at number 2. But they're not out yet. They still have the playoffs to go through. Every team we cast today is in the playoffs. So we get to see them take what they learned from these games, adjust and move on in. But all business, they're starting to get that momentum, get that mojo back after being sent down to the lower bracket by Zero Tenacity in a 2-0.
And Jerky, he had his moments, so did Crisis. It really did feel that Low9 were able to get these main duelists set up to be a complete threat. But I think it was really the second point that let Low9 down the most, that all business were able to keep things moving along swimmingly. And whilst there was a pretty good defense over on point C, where exactly we're seeing these fights take place, it was just too much time bank for all business to go in and really make it fairly straightforward after they could get a couple of picks and get things moving along. But a good result for them nonetheless.
A good result, an impressive result. All business move on to that lower bracket final where they will be playing against either Berber Patapim or Zero Tenacity. We'll be finding that out later on, and we'll also be finding out who will play against Virtus Pro between Rad Esports, potentially a rematch, or Insomnia. Those will be our matches that come up to decide those matchups. And I don't know about you, I'm excited for them. But again, all these teams are going to playoffs. They're competing for the optimal spot to try and make their way through to be the first EMEA champions for Marvel Rivals Ignite.
Yeah, and honestly, even though people might say, oh, it's seeding, it doesn't matter, I think the main thing that these teams want at the moment going into not only like EMEA Ignite, but also like the mid-season finals and beyond is just reps. Mostly with this new system that's come in with the advanced draft. So, and sort of seeing where that meta naturally evolves. People are going to be looking at Virtus Pro, what they've been doing with the Adam Warlock for sure, but they also have a couple of ideas that they want to try up against teams like this. Low9 gave it a good go. Like, what happens if we use the strategy of just ban out Tuzi? Is there enough impact there? And I guess for the VOD review, it'll give the answers, because I can't say for certain if it was a good idea or a bad idea. It's just whether Low9 will do that in the future against other teams once we get to playoffs.
The fact is, Low9 put up an incredibly good fight with this strategy. The question is, like you say, other teams can look at this, maybe iterate on it. Every game you show something is a game other teams can learn something from. And with Low9 doing some very flexible stuff, taking a couple strategies from Team Peps even, who put up some really good fights, these teams are all learning not just from each other, but from other regions. We are seeing so much flexibility and so much evolution. And let's talk about the evolution of playstyles as this draft has gone on, as we have Zenost here to talk to us from All Business. For starters, congratulations on yet another win.
Wait, this guy...
Hello.
Hello again. I think
this guy was playing in a button-up?
Bans on that first map. Like, not only did we
What?
see Low9 missing 2, but also
Respect
you guys
that.
missed one.
This guy's playing in style.
Why did you guys miss one? Was that just sort of like a we'll let you have this one, or did
All
you also make
true.
a mistake there?
True.
We were all kind of confused with what was happening. We were wondering if maybe the map was going to be reset, if maybe L9 can do their drafts again, and then while we were talking, the person who was banning wasn't the usual person who was banning, so he forgot he had to ban. Stuff just happened.
It was literally just in the chaos it happened. And the same thing happened to OG as well, that the usual person that was in that seat wasn't really expecting it and got caught out. But what was that first map like, right? You have the Magneto, the Emma Frost, and then also the Loki and the Lunar Snow. It must have felt like you were running back into the Stage 1 championships, perhaps.
Yeah, the main problem was such an unrealistic team comp that we hadn't even ever played this before in like a month or something. So we were a bit confused on how to start on this. But the picks were so strong in the end that we can just win it all.
And we've already talked to you about the potential for how we've been seeing the bans consistently onto Tuzi with that Psylocke. This was taken to yet another level, but you guys did surpass and overcome that difficulty. But how much preparation did you have for that eventuality as we've slowly been seeing the bans against Tuzi rise?
We were wondering if there might be a torch ban, but we never expected all 3 bans, and we had a special situation today as well in which Tuzi had to, in the first game he disconnected, he had to use his hotspot to come back again, and Slop was playing from his sister's house because he also didn't have internet. And then we had an unusual ban against us. We were all kind of, it was very chaotic, to say the least.
It was a weird day, it seems like, but you're able to sort of come out on top, you progress in the tournament. The last question I have for you, what is it that your poster says? It's been on my mind since we last spoke yesterday, and I'm really curious on what it says.
It's in my head that just made sense. It's I have that poster for multiple years. I don't even remember when I first got it, but I think that actually fits what we're doing in drafts sometimes, where I think, oh, this makes sense, but then it doesn't even make sense in the end. Which was something that happened in these games, but our DPS players showed very flexible strength. Slopo popped over on the Bucky, Tozy went on the Hela, and we had very good games. Dodge went on the Groot, Toot on the Hulk.
In your head, it just made sense, and in the game, it just worked. You move on, you're going to be getting a slightly better seating, and you're going to be playing against either or either Berber Patapin or Zero Tenacity. Thank you for joining us, Nos. We look forward to seeing you as the games go on.
Thank you very much. I hope you have a good day.
A wonderful victory.
A poster someday up, Beverly, didn't it? Of just a very a memorable series for sure. Like
just the game I want to watch.
L9 to try it. Didn't quite work this time, but they can reiterate on the draft and see if these 2 teams meet in playoffs, whether the same thing will happen again.
It's the mindset of the iterating teams. In my head, it made sense, and that is either a battle cry of we're going to
match we've been waiting for,
or the battle cry of whoops,
you see the BP.
Didn't work, but right now, for all business, it is working. They move on to play against either Berber Patapim or Zero Tenacity. That'll be our last game of the day. But coming up, we have Rad Esports versus Insomnia. That's our first upper bracket game. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our 3rd series.
This is my unnatural selection. Extermination!
It was a pretty good match though, for all. These are probably the 2 big matches here. Like if you really want to learn something, watch these. This map is kind of a steamroll in res comp versus like tradition. Res comp will always win. It took too long to kind of this. My drawing skills are goated, what can I say?
Well, we've sort of spent the majority of our time this week, Tetcher, in the sort of looming, sweaty, humid. I'm just using the fact that it's 30 degrees in my room to find like ways to describe this. In the losers bracket, where elimination's been on the line. Now we get to reach the heights, where we're looking at the upper bracket. One of these teams is going to be in the grand finals over on Sunday, as we're looking at Rad up against Insomnia GG.
The opportunity to fight for that number 1 seed. A very good thing to strive for, because of course if you're number 1 seed, you're going to play against a team that is lower down in the seeding order, giving you a massive, in theory, advantage to move on in the brackets to try and earn not only that prize money, that championship for EMEA, potentially a spot at the mid-season finals. As the bracket goes on, we're starting off with Rad Esports EU versus Insomnia GG.
So I think when we're looking at Rad first, the question realistically is, we talk about the Crown and Virtus Pro and that result that they had last week. Is that Crown moving over towards this side? Like, is this team genuinely a considered option of being the best in EMEA?
I don't know.
Because
this is actually like a really good map. Great match.
Surely it's like about getting the results afterwards. Insomnia are probably the non-favorites in this one. Really, a lot of people looking at Rad as like, okay, recognize the names because these could be at the top of the leaderboards in the NBA very, very soon.
Rad players are so experienced. Melio has been around on so many teams, including Fnatic back in the day. Naga has absolutely popped off this year. Trust me, is one of the most legendary tanks we have. Fate and level 1 Crook have constantly been up and down across all of the leaderboards and in these tournaments. This team has more pedigree than a dog food factory.
I mean, yeah, it's the fact that you're sort of looking at elements of it, right? Of like, okay, yeah, Virtus Pro, first place at the Invitational, second team was OG. Well, the OGC team was a little bit different, but it is pretty much the same as this Rad squad, other than a couple of changes and adding in a bit more firepower. For Insomnia, for me, as casted that event, wasn't involved in the championship. This is a squad that I recognize some of the players from various games beforehand, but they kind of have slipped under the radar, and unironically, a lot of people are sleeping on Insomnia, it feels like.
Yeah, literally, I said it earlier. I spoke to a lot of the players, and they have said that people are sleeping on Insomnia. They're already in the upper bracket finals. The question is, how much of these teams started to be able to adjust and learn. Insomnia have been one of the more aggressive teams in their playstyle. You can see even in this clip, the legendary Captain America hold for such a long time, utilizing Wolverine, utilizing Captain America. They've been great on this Punisher. Nocta has had some of the most flexibility in terms of heroes, including being one of the few people in EMEA to bring out that Hawkeye, even without the Luna actually seeing play, just sending it straight on its own.
Yeah, full sending it for the most part. I am curious on how this one's going to go, because Insomnia, I think their sort of matchup that we saw leading into this game was a really close one. Like, honestly, some of the moments that we saw in that sort of qualifying game up against Team Peps was crazy. It was a full free map, but they were able to push to the end of Clintar in overtime. Nothing left. They pretty much were able to go the whole entire distance, and the likes of Team Peps couldn't manage it. And then the end of Spider Island was a ridiculous fight for them. So
big match,
I
boy.
think it's like Rad have been
Roman,
pretty
big match.
clean in all of their games,
Ducks of all
including the
ages.
win over Virtus Pro might I add. It was dominant from them. You almost expect them to make this a very swift 2-0, but there's just something about this Insomnia team that I think really could ire their sights and make this a bit more of a slog than they're expecting.
It's the stability, the expectations, and just the pure experience of Rad Esports versus the raw, unfettered, just skill play style of Insomnia that we just keep seeing more and more of. We've mentioned they have some flexibility with some different characters, and they do have a load of experience themselves. They used to play for Ex-Oblivion, who played a top 8 finish in MRC Season 1. Seijiro has been grinding on Team Cloud9, who won the RTBF online session qualifiers and then the tournament. They are extremely proficient. They just haven't come across our
So
radar
first map,
in a
burning
lot of
to
these
Chalna,
big
pretty good.
tournaments yet. Also, they have our single Australian player for EMEA in the
I'm not a
Demon.
The Oceania region, I always
Not a
struggle with that word, has
fan
been
of-
going on very, very swiftly as well.
Mag
More in
ban,
America,
Mag
so
save.
we're
We
not
see
expecting
Emma
to see it
ban,
this way.
Loki ban, probably
For
a Mag
Insomnia,
save,
yeah,
or Emma
it's
save,
a
probably.
tricky old one, I think, when we're sort of looking at the players involved.
That's the
Like,
one thing I don't
everyone
like about this
sort of
ban
catches
system
your
is whoever gets
attention
first ban
the
like has the
most at this
advantage no
rate.
matter what.
Also, we're missing Siwo as well. I was excited for him because I liked his Captain America. We've got Sentinoblin playing.
Sentinoblin going to be taking the place of Passivo here. We will see how this affects their drafting phase. Passivo has been their big Captain America player for the team, has also been running a little bit of Emma Frost. This might change their drafting style, which I guess means Rad might have a more difficult time banning for them, because normally you'd see Passivo and be like, yeah, you know what, the Cap's a solid choice to fill in the draft phase. So Rad, they're just playing it safe. Simple bans. Not the bag, though, which is kind of wild, because Insomnia, they do pick up the bag because Rad chose to ban Emma Frost first.
I also think the Fate is missing an E from his name because Fat is in the server. And he's the one missing. You've got Naga Awesome as well. Like, great. Like, they'd be very, like, open and experimental. I know it's, like, seeding that these guys are playing for, but Rad, you know, they beat Virtus Pro once. Now look at them. They're taking creative liberties on their usernames. But they are actually going to use that second save over towards the Human Torch. Maybe a little bit worried after the last series that, like, Naga is going to be hit pretty hard when it comes to some of the other bans.
Rad going to be securing that Human Torch, like you say. The Wolverine potentially going to be secured by Insomnia. They've shown how much they do like to play that, especially Demon.
Loki ban, Emma ban, Emma ban.
Demon on this Wolverine, but instead they
Torch
protect
save,
the Punisher,
Psylocke
giving them a
ban,
more stable option as opposed to
Punisher save,
almost
pretty
putting
standard
them
cloak
in
ban.
to a Wolverine style
Pretty
of draft.
standard, like,
Final ban.
a
Rad
lot
were
of-
the first teams that
there's the-
started banning the cloak and dagger earlier, including against Virtus Pro when they did find that victory, understanding its strength potentially before anyone else.
Could be Pasiwo instead of Sentinel in its playing. Hard to know if it's just a username change or just a completely different player.
This is
Not
fine.
as familiar with
I like
Insomnia,
this.
like I mentioned.
We
so
have
who
res
knows,
comp
but you're right,
essentially
like, Rad,
with a Punisher.
the
This
draft
works
system that they've
fine.
pretty much concocted and maybe
It's not
even
like
patented
the
to
most
an
ideal
extent,
situation, but it is good.
looking to use it again here on Venom T'Challa. All of these first maps are going to be domination, so they are going to be a little bit more brawly. It's something that we saw from Insomnia again in their matchup previous up against Team Peps, that it was a little bit more brutal, and it was Peps that actually took that map first. So here for Rad, they haven't dropped the map at all in this tournament. Must be feeling pretty good going into this one.
That's very true. Rad currently undefeated. And even in rounds, they dropped 1 round versus Virtus Pro. They did drop 3 rounds versus Alcancia, who did take them to an overtime. So Rad are assailable. Will Insomnia be the ones to do it?
Zoom out is coming through. Melio over on the Ultron for the triple support. You've got a little bit of the Guardians in there too.
It's the same thing, kind of, but instead of a main healer, you have Ultron, which
standard stuff than what we've been consistently seeing. But both teams running the Adam Warlock, both teams running triples and strategies.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Coming in for a little bit more healing, whereas Rad went for a little bit more DPS.
I don't know. Kind of weird, in my opinion.
Almost being a third duelist as well as Fate, giving them that little bit of extra protection. Right now, Awesome, making the most of the positioning, utilizing this top
it's kind of working.
Ceiling, being lower on this building to just siege from above and getting themselves a pickup. Right now, Insomnia do seem to be taking at least a little bit of momentum back after Rad started off so aggressively.
Yeah. Nocta clipping the wings at the very least over on Melio. But it's the Vanguard line that actually find the picks to keep things going for Rad. Pushing up on the point in the blue side, and Rajaro is really just springboarding this pick into pick. More time into more time. And Insomnia GG, they do have some ultimates at least very much available. In the visible boundary, you want to be a little bit closer to the objective. Ideally, it wants to be on the objective before you take these engagements. But Rajaro trying to hide away, sneak back, disengage, get a little bit of support.
Yeah, not bad, but
from the rest of his
kind
team.
of weird.
And then straight
The fact
back
that
in
it's
on the
working
fight
is kind of crazy.
The rage of Ultron with the dynamic flight for the speed to chase them in, and they dominate
Damage
that. Insomnia sent back to spawn. Invisible boundary at the ready for relaxing nights, but this is Rad controlling this early stage and making the real case that the win versus VP wasn't a fluke and that they are aiming for first place as Insomnia look to try and find an opening.
Trust me, it's very, very close to having a side.
Yeah, Rad looks very good.
Captain America running in. Bit of the unnamed player being thrown into a hell of a matchup, and there's the supernova that's coming through. Meteor M from the distance, bounce back actually from the Captain America, comical almost, but no eliminations either side from it. The Climate Revival, if there was people that went down, they're going to be right back, because I think both of them have come in. No, Fate is sat on his still. Trust me, it's just brawling, happy to go in for the fight, and Demon gets a little bit more than what he could chew on. Bit of a mouthful as Rajaro trying to match up the Captain America head to head. Still,
I'm surprised. Like, this is such a weird count.
Looking to make this 100% to
0. No main healer. I guess like you have Stain, right? You have Captain America and you have Emma, so they've been for quite a while. Captain is his ultimate. Still kind of weird.
That was solid. That is what a lot of people are now expecting out of Rad.
Like in theory, it shouldn't be
have in the tag. What is the comeback potential?
what they're playing against.
Oh, the Vanguard's not
But
going down once.
I guess they're like looking in the mirror.
Just, I'm still going to call him Fate, because I think calling him Fat just sounds a little bit like directed, you know, like. I know that tomorrow, when his name's going to be back to normal, if we do see him play tomorrow, that I'm going to accidentally start calling him Fat, and nobody wants that. But free ultimates still available for Rad as they go in onto the second point. We're so used to seeing these game modes, Tetcher, just go back and forth, 99% to 99%. It's a statement that Rad have been so clean on this for so long, regardless of whether it's Insomnia that they're playing up against or Virtus Pro. They are making it very quick and easy, and they're wanting to do the same here.
Insomnia, they look like they're going to be doing a little bit of a copy here. They're going to bring out the Ultron of their own for an attempted turnaround here, and Demon moves over to the Human Torch. These compositions are now mirrored, with the exception that Fate is sticking with this Adam Warlock and Relaxing Nights. They are very keen on this Invisible Woman. It's literally the only character they've played so far.
Yeah, just really finding where this fight is going to start. Melio is going to start us off with the Rage of Ultron. It's not him getting the picks. You look at Rajaro over in the elimination feed, and he just is so good at finding the freedom charge not needed. It's how well Rad are comboing here, and when you've got a player like Rajaro on one of his like most apt characters, it really does make it feel night and day difference from what we've seen so far.
It really does, as Rad are in so much control right now. Melio on that Ultron, putting on the pressure. Naga continuously powering up and just dropping all the damage, diving in aggressively from time to time as well on this torch. This is the control. Here comes the aggressive dive here from the cap on the side of Insomnia. Counter from Rajaroba, and their team is already getting dropped down, but it of course is going to be the Adam Warlock who can return and bring back the rest of the team, which they will do. Karmic Revival onto Awesome, as we are seeing Rajaroba looking for the turnaround. There's no counter here. Nocta gonna try and create an opening by sieging.
Pretty good ults. Very good ults.
But in the meantime, Trust Me is dominating this fight.
Ooh, Meteor M is crisp right onto Naga, but a trade means that this progression is still going the way of Rad. Despite them being down in numbers, Insomnia trying to maybe have a jump off the map or reset, but no, it is just Trust Me playing with fire, quite literally being on the edge of this waterfall in a position. Rajaro gets another kill. We're sort of used to seeing that at this point. Just in the middle of all of the chaos, finding so much, and it's 0% made on the bot from Insomnia at all so far on Benim T'Challa, and 76% ticking up from Rad, and they got plenty on board to be working with ultimate-wise.
I can only watch this match, then I think I have to go for a bit in this stream, unfortunately. But yeah, this comp is pretty interesting. This guy is just like carrying, like deleting everybody. So insane. That's insane.
Yet another convincing setup for Rad. They take game number 1.
Gonna end the stream there. I gotta go for now.
Just felt that they went